الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين فاطر السماوات والأرضين والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد المصطفى وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين الميامين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قد أفلح المؤمنون الذين هم في صلاتهم خاشعون. صلوات. I apologize for the delay. The subject of this presentation, as you all know, is Salaat, and I strongly recommend all of you to please take notes, write down things that you would learn, inshallah, and that will be beneficial for you, inshallah. As you all know, there is a Q&A session scheduled at the end. You can write down any question that you may have, and inshallah at the end of the presentation I'm at your service to respond to the questions, inshallah. And this presentation, I think it's the 17th city in the US where I'm doing it. I have my niyat to, inshallah, do it in every city if possible. It's one of the most important subjects and fundamental subjects, one of the fundamental subjects of Islam that not only our youth need to learn, but also the elders, and the importance of this subject makes it necessary for everyone to pay attention to this. The word Salat, as we usually say, it's read as Salah with at the ha, h at the end when you stop it. In Arabic, when you stop at the ta al-marbuta, the small round ta, you read it like a ha. So if you stop, you read it like Salah. But usually we say it at Salat. The literal meaning, if you open up the dictionary and you find the meaning of the word Salat, the meaning is dua and prayers. So this is about the literal meaning. And we have a walk around to the discussion, things that we are going to talk about, inshallah. First of all, I would like to discuss, inshallah, the importance, ahamiyat, and importance of the prayers in the eyes of the Holy Quran, a little bit on that. Second of all, importance in the eyes of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. And third of all, the kinds of salat. We are talking about the wajib ones only. Mustahab are a whole lot. Definitely we are not able to discuss the mustahab prayers in this short time of 6 hours, which is nothing for a subject like salat. So we are only talking about the wajib prayers, which are 6 in total. And then fourth of all, we'll talk about a very fundamental discussion in our fiqh and Islamic jurisprudence, which is about the concept of wajibat itself. What types of wajibat do we have in Islam? We'll talk a little bit on that. And fifth of all, we'll talk about the shara'it, and shara'itu sihhat as-salat means the conditions for the correctness of our prayers. If you fulfill those conditions, only then, according to Islamic jurisprudence and fiqh, your prayers is considered to be correctly done. Sixth of all, we will inshallah talk about the wajibat inside the prayers. Earlier we talked about the wajibat as a whole, a general concept of wajib things in Islam. Now we'll talk about the wajibat, which are the wajib components of the prayers, inside the compulsory components of the prayers, which are inside the prayers. Seventh, excuse me, we'll discuss the Shara'atul Qabul. Earlier we discussed the conditions, but those are the conditions for the correctness of the prayers. In order to say it correctly, after you said the prayers correctly, are your prayers accepted by Allah? The answer to that lies is in number 7. Did you also fulfill those conditions which we call Shara'atul Qabul, the conditions for the acceptance of the prayers as well or not? If you fulfill those conditions which are for the acceptance of the prayers, then your prayers will be accepted by Allah. And those are 4 that we will talk about inshallah. 8th of all, the classification of wajib. 9th is, and the 10th, we will at the end inshallah discuss about a little bit about the salat and the prayers of our Urafa and the awliyaullah, the great beloved servants of Allah. How do they think about the prayers? What is their take on the prayers? We'll talk about that inshallah. So let's first go to the highly confidential profile of the prayers. Highly confidential is because we, the humans, otherwise had no clue what is this information. We would never know it had it not been for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam to disclose the secrets for us. We have no access whatsoever to the hidden informations. The first thing about the highly confidential profile of prayers is that the purpose. Why do we do it? The purpose is excuse me, it serves as a mi'raj, an ascension of a mu'min. In the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he told us, as-salatu mi'rajul mu'min. Prayers is the ascension of a mu'min. So remember, our Holy Prophet went on mi'raj, isn't it right? And he didn't go to ascension just once. In the hadith of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, Prophet had 140 times the mi'raj and ascension for Prophet took place for 140 times. One of the reasons why you find there are so many variety of narrations when he went on mi'raj, different narrations talking about different dates. Well, it makes sense because he didn't go on mi'raj once. So there has to be so many dates for that. And he went for 140 times. It's a blessing of Allah that receiving the mi'raj like the Holy Prophet is impossible for anyone, any other human being. He is the most superior human ever created. No one can get as high as he got. If anybody had that status and spirituality, he would have already gotten to that level. Isn't it right? Allah had the comprehensive knowledge of all the earlier and the later generations. So no one can dare reach the highness of the Prophet. So no one deserves the ascension like the Holy Prophet. No one can be like him. But lower levels of ascension, it's a rahmat and mercy of Allah that lower levels of ascension and mi'raj are possible for each and every human being. If we do the prayers properly, then we all can reach the lower levels of mi'raj and ascension. So purpose of why do we do the prayers is that we want to, if somebody asks you, you Muslims, you pray 5 times a day, why in the world are you praying? What's the purpose? The answer to the question is that we want to reach the ascension and mi'raj. That's why we are doing it. So it serves as a boosting flight for ascension for a moment to highest space, close to the, Allah's pleasure and rida. That's why we do it. That's the purpose of prayers. That's the ghayat, al-ghayatul matluba. That's the purpose that we are pursuing to achieve. Why we do it? So that we can achieve this purpose. Status of the prayers. It's the pillar of the whole religion, Islam. Just like you find a building has so many pillars and it rests on those pillars. If you remove the pillars, the imarat, the binaya, the construction would shatter and collapse. Similarly, if if my son, my daughter, they don't know how to pray, isn't it right? Their whole religion, Islam, becomes zero. Isn't it right? The whole religion that they have in their soul is equal to zero if they don't know how to pray, because that's the foundation. Foundation is gone, the whole religion collapses down, nothing remains of Islam. We may think we are a Muslim, we may think we are so nice, so good, there's nothing wrong with me, I am such a nice guy, but in the dictionary of the Holy Prophet, our religion is zero. So that's the meaning of the pillar. Everything rests on that. You need to protect the pillar so the whole foundation, the whole religion survives in your soul. So status of the prayers is that it serves as a pillar. So the year of birth, what's the date of birth of Salaat? The date of birth of Salaat is the second Hijrah. It's the second year of the migration of the Holy Prophet when he went on Mi'raj, one of those 140 times, it was on second Hijrah. That's the most famous occasion, widely narrated, is among those 140 occasions, the most widely documented and narrated occasion of Mi'raj and Ascension was the one that happened in the second Hijrah. So Prophet went on Mi'raj in the second Hijrah from Medina, second year of migration, and this is where the Prophet was taken up, isn't it right? Crossing all those 7 heavens, one after the other, from Masjid al-Haram, the sacred mosque, which is where the Holy Kaaba is located, towards Al-Masjid al-Aqsa. Al-Aqsa in Arabic means the farthest. There are 2 statements in our tafsir. Some scholars say that's the Masjid al-Aqsa, which is located in Baytul Muqaddas, Jerusalem, with the green dome mosque occupied by the Zionists that Imam al-Khomeini Ridwanullah alayh said it's necessary upon all of us to protest on the last Friday of Ramadan against the Yazid and Shimrs of today, who occupied our Al-Masjid al-Aqsa, one of the 4 greatest mosques, and Al-Qibla al-Ula, the first Qibla of the Muslims before the Holy Kaaba. So that's one of the 2 statements of scholars of tafsir, that Prophet went from Al-Masjid al-Haram, the most sacred mosque where the Kaaba is located, towards Jerusalem, Baytul Muqaddas, where the green dome, faded dome mosque is located, which is covered up by the media. Usually they talk about the golden dome mosque, which is Qubbatus Sakhra, dome of the rock. That's obviously a mosque, and we respect every mosque, but that's not one of the 4 greatest mosques of Islam. One of the 4 greatest mosques is the one which is opposite to the Golden Dome Mosque, which is having a green dome, a faded one, locked up by the Zionists, and they don't usually allow anybody to go inside. So that's the Masjid al-Aqsa, according to one of the 2 statements in tafsir, where Prophet went there, isn't it right? And he prayed inside Al-Masjid al-Aqsa, and then he went towards the 7 heavens. And another statement says Al-Masjid al-Aqsa is not this one, but is Al-Bayt al-Ma'mur. That's the masjid which is constructed on the 4th heaven, As-Sama'ur Rabi'a, Asmane Chaharum, the 4th heaven. Al-Aqsa means the farthest. Is called the farthest because this is actually the farthest mosque. There is no mosque farther than that. It's on the fourth heaven. So, according to one of those two statements of tafsir, Prophet went from the Kaaba to that mosque in the fourth heaven, and that's where he prayed, and all the arwah and souls of all the messengers and prophets, al-anbiya wal-mursaleen, all of them without exception were present. Their souls were present, and Jibreel grabbed the hand of the Prophet and brought him forward, and Prophet did his Salaat, his prayers inside the Masjid al-Aqsa, and all the souls of the prophets were praying behind him. So that's the Masjid al-Aqsa. Subhanalladhi asra bi'abdihi laylan min al-Masjid al-Harami ila al-Masjid al-Aqsa alladhi barakna hawlahu linuriyahu min ayatina. So according to one of those two statements of tafsir. So the year of birth is the second year of Hijrah, where Prophet was taken on Mi'raj in one of those 140 times, and that's the most famous occasion of his travel. Prophet, after crossing Masjid al-Aqsa, all the seven heavens, and then the Sidratul Muntaha, the Sidra tree, which is Al-Muntaha, means the limit, because the limit of Jibreel can't go farther than that. And then Prophet crossed those 70 hijabat. Isn't that right? There are 70 curtains between, available, so Prophet crossed all those curtains of hijabat, and finally to a Rafraful Akhdar, the green Rafraf, when he was taken over the green Rafraf towards the Arsh and throne of Allah. And Prophet says, when I had a look at the throne, Prophet said once, when I had a look at the Arsh, everything that I saw became lowly in my eyes. This is the azamat of the Arsh of Allah. And Prophet was standing under the Arsh. And that is where he performed his first ever Salat in the history, under the throne and Arsh of Allah. In the current condition, Prophet used to pray even before the Mi'raj and Ascension, but in the current condition, that's why I use the word. That means the current condition, the way we pray today, in this current form, Prophet, the first prayers that Prophet prayed in this current form was prayed under the Arsh and throne of Allah in the second Hijrah. That's the date of birth of the prayers. Place of birth is under the Arsh of Allah. And the first wudu for the Salat, you need to have wudu, isn't it right? You need to have tahur before you can do the prayers. You need to have taharat. And so in whatever form applicable in your case, whether you need to do wudu, you need to do tayammum, you need to do ghusl, whatever applies in your case. But the bottom line, you need to have the taharat. So Prophet did his wudu for the first ever prayers in this current form under the Arsh and throne of Allah, and he did the wudu from a fountain called Saad. I have another presentation that I do in some cities about wudu, which is about a 5-hour presentation on wudu. It's very informative as well. Inshallah, if Allah gives us tawfiq, we can do it sometime here as well. So wudu is another very important subject of Islam, but that's not the subject today, so I won't go more on that. But Prophet did his first wudu from a fountain called Saad. We have a chapter in the Holy Quran called Saad in Quran, isn't it right? Surah Saad in Quran. This Surah Saad is the name of a fountain. Ain, in Arabic we call it Ain. Chashma is the name of a fountain which is outbursting from the pillar of the Arsh and throne of Allah. And Prophet had access to that fountain, and he did his first wudu, and he did the wudu at that time from that fountain of Saad, and performed his first ever prayers in this current form under the Arsh of Allah. And my teacher, Ayatollah Jawadi Amuli, Hafadahullah, was saying that whoever has access to the fountain of Saad deserves the Miraj. Definitely Prophet had access to reach the fountain of Miraj, and he deserves the Miraj. So he did his first wudu from the fountain of Saad, and then he prayed his first ever prayers. What was the first prayers in this current form that Prophet prayed? The first salat is Salatul Zuhr, according to the Mufassirin of ours. Quran has said, وَحَافِظُوا عَلَى الصَّلَوَاتِ وَالصَّلَاةِ الْوُسْطَى, and protect the prayers and the middle prayers. حَافِظُوا عَلَى الصَّلَوَاتِ وَالصَّلَاةِ الْوُسْطَى, protect the prayers and the middle prayer. So Allah singled out one of the prayers and mentioned it separately in the verse of Holy Quran. When Allah says, وَالصَّلَاةِ الْوُسْطَى, the middle prayer, there's a huge discussion among the scholars of Islam, Sunnis and Shias, what is the middle prayers? So many statements. But our scholars say, based on the ahadith from Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, that the first prayer is as-salatul wusta, is the salat of Zuhr. That's the first prayers that Prophet prayed under the arsh of Allah in this current form, and that's the salatul wusta. We need to be very particular about all the prayers in our life, but specifically Salatul Zuhr, because it's a Salatul Wusta. It's the middle prayer. Allah has singled out that middle prayer among the rest of the prayers, which again, we understand in the light of that it carries a significant importance. Isn't it right? I know people who work for Jewish bosses, and they have said from day one of their job, see, I am a Muslim, I need to pray. And if you give importance to your values and principles, everyone else learns to give importance to you and your religion. If you yourself become shy, forget about anyone else learning to give any importance to you, because you yourself don't hold importance for your own value system and your own religion. You don't even deserve to get the importance because you don't care about it. When you don't care, why would anybody else care about it? Isn't it right? So it's a matter of importance. When the time of Zuhr comes and you are at the workplace, we need to pray. We need to care about that. So this is a short classified profile from about the Salat. And now let's move forward to the importance of the prayers in the eyes of Ahlul Bayt, eyes of Quran. Let's go to that. So a bit on that subject. First ayat which I mentioned here is the conversation that will take place between the people of the hellfire. When they will be asked, when people of the hellfire, after they go into the hell, they will be asked a question: what landed you into the hell? What caused you people to go finally into the hellfire? What brought you into the hell? مَا سَلَكَكُمْ فِي سَقَرٍ قَالُوا لَمْ نَكُ مِنَ الْمُصَلِّينَ. What drew you into the hell? The people of the hellfire will reply, they will answer, we were not among those who prayed. So you can understand very well the status of the prayers. It's enough for a person to land him into the hellfire. The second ayat of Quran, obviously Salat is mentioned so many times in the Quran. In this short period of 6 hours, we cannot talk about all those verses. I just mentioned a few of those to give a glimpse of the importance. The second ayat is what I recited in the beginning of my presentation from Surah Al-Mu'minun. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي صَلَاتِهِمْ خَاشِعُونَ. And these are those verses of Holy Quran which, when Imam Ali alayhi salam was brought in the lap of his mother, by his mother, on the day number 4 of his birth, outside the Holy Kaaba. Her mom stayed inside the Kaaba for 3 days as a special guest of Allah, receiving the rizq and sustenance from God. So she steps out on the day number 4 when the Holy Prophet comes to the Kaaba on day 4. She comes out of the Kaaba and she hands over the wasi and deputy of the greatest messenger, the greatest deputy of the greatest messenger, into the lap of Rasulullah. And Imam Ali comes into the lap of his greatest messenger, and that's the first time he opens up his eyes, and the first thing he saw was the most beautiful face Allah ever created, the most handsome face Allah ever created, the face of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam. And that's where Imam Ali started to recite all the previous books of previous messengers, one by one, one by one. And then finally the turn came for the Holy Quran, and Imam Ali recited these verses at that time, at the time of his birth, day number 4. These are the verses that he recited on day number 4 in the lap of Rasulullah. Remember, we are talking about 30th year of the elephant, Amul Fil. Quran, the revelation of Quran did not start yet on Rasulullah. Isn't it right? Imam Ali is reading the Holy Quran at the time of his birth in the lap of the Prophet, and Quran is not revealed on the Prophet yet. Isn't that an evidence, an unshakable evidence that every ma'soom in our belief, every infallible, is born with the knowledge of Quran and ismat and infallibility from day 1 of his birth? So Imam Ali has the entire knowledge of Quran. Isn't it right? Before the Quran is revealed on the Holy Prophet, he knows the whole Quran. He's reading it. And not just Quran, all the previous books. So now, certainly, these verses are telling us, certainly the faithful got succeeded, those who are humble in their Salaat. Now let's go to the importance of Quran in the eyes of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Okay, let me finish this important thing. So, importance in the eyes of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. When we use the word Ahlul Bayt in Arabic, it includes Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. You don't have to necessarily say Rasul wa Ahlul Bayt, because Ahlul Bayt is an abbreviation in Arabic. The actual word is Ahlul Baytin Nubuwah. That's the full form. Ahlul Baytin Nubuwah, the household of prophethood. So Ahl in Arabic is derived from the word uns, familiarity, being familiar with something. So anyone who is familiar, has uns with the nubuwwat and prophethood of the Prophet, is part of Ahlul Bayt. Isn't it right? So obviously it includes the Prophet, it includes the 12 Imams, it includes Hazrat Zahra alayhi salam, it includes even, the word Ahlul Bayt is now including Salman al-Farsi rahmatullahi alayhi as well. Salman minna Ahlul Bayt. Isn't it right? Because he has uns with the nubuwwat of Rasulullah. Anyone who has uns, anyone who has familiarity and is familiar with the concept of nubuwwat from the inside, from his spirituality, deserves to be part of Ahlul Bayt. So it includes the Prophet. So even if we did not single out the Prophet separately, it's included. Here's one hadith from Rasulullah: As-salatu amududdin, in qubilat qubila ma siwaha, wa in ruddat rudda ma siwaha. Prayers is the pillar of the religion. If it's accepted, everything else is accepted. If it's rejected, everything else is rejected. There are people who say that, my dad was a very nice person, Maulana, but he never used to pray. What's this kind of statement? It's very important to remember that our policies of life need to be adjusted with the values of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If we adorn ourselves with the divine value system, this is how we are called nice and good. So prayers is what is necessary for the rest of the things to be accepted. If you think your rest of the amal, your good deeds, whatever other than the prayers you are doing is accepted by Allah, then first things first. Look at your prayers. Is your prayers accepted? Only then the rest of the things will be accepted. Allah is not going to go against His principles that He told through His messenger. It's Allah telling. Whatever Prophet is saying is not actually in the real sense. It's not his statement only. It's the statement of Allah. He is the messenger of Allah. The messenger never says anything without Allah asking him to say. Isn't that right? So this is in the real sense Allah's statement. So everything else is accepted if the prayers is accepted. And if the prayers is rejected, everything else is also rejected. This is another important thing. Second hadith from Rasulullah is where he says, "Man taraka salata muta'ammidan faqad kafara." This is from Al-Hijjah al-Bayda. What it takes for a person to become kafir, you don't grow horns, isn't it right? What it takes to become a kafir is to quit the prayers. That's it. If you quit praying, that's what it takes for a person to be called, a kafir. Man taraka salata, whoever leaves the prayers intentionally, muta'ammidan, faqad kafara, he certainly did the kufr. The third hadith is from Amir al-MOMIN alayhi salam. He says, "Law ya'lam al-musalli ma yakhshahu min ar-rahmati lama rafa'a ra'sahu min as-sujud." If the person praying is called musalli in Arabic. Anyone who performs the prayers is called musalli in Arabic. The one who performs the salat is called musalli. So if the musalli, the person who is praying, if he knew what sort of mercy is surrounding him, he would never lift his head from the sajda. So why we lift our head from the sajda? Because we don't know what kind of mercy of Allah is surrounding us at the time of sajda. This is the closest. If somebody asks you, how can a person, a slave of Allah, a servant of God, reach the closest status towards Allah? The closest a person can get is when you put your head in the sajda. The hadith says, أَقْرَبُ مَا يَكُونُ الْعَبْدُ مِنَ الرَّبِّ وَهُوَ سَاجِدٌ بَاكٍ. The closest a slave can get towards the Lord is when he is in sajda and crying. So if you are in sajda and crying, this is where you are the closest possible towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sajda is the most superior of all the worships. Again, it's another great value of Islam. It takes another, a workshop to talk about sajda alone and its beauty and its benefits. But that's not our subject. But basically, that's one of the most greatest worships of Islam and one of the most amazing and interesting and charming worships of Islam. The hadith number 4 from Amir al-Mu'minin, I'm going to end in just a couple of minutes, inshallah, so you get the break. Amir al-Mu'minin says, "Man lam tanhahu salatuhu an al-fahsha'i wal-munkari lam yazdad min Allah illa bu'da." Whomsoever's prayers doesn't block him from doing the evil and the wrong, fahsha and munkar. Some people, may Allah give all of us the tawfiq, I'm doing this nasihat and advices to my own self. Some people, let's suppose a person is performing several harams in his life, God forbid. Before the salat, he used to perform 7 harams in his life on a consistent basis and does not stop. And after the salat, he continues to do the same 7 harams in his life. It doesn't care. The business as usual. So do we think this kind of salat is going to be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Let's ask Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, what's the status of this prayers? He says whoever salat doesn't stop him from indecency and wrong, he gains nothing but becoming more and more and more, becoming farther away from Allah. Don't we do the salat qurbatan ilallah, to seek the nearness of Allah? It's counterproductive. This salat, because of the 7 harams that I am doing constantly, God forbid, is counterproductive. I do the salat qurbatan ilallah to become near to Allah. I'm becoming more far away from Allah. Now the time of Asr comes, I do my Asr prayers. I become even farther away from Allah. The time of Maghrib comes, I become even more far away from Allah. Why? Because I did not stop those 7 harams in my life. It's not a ritual, isn't it right? It's not an exercise that we are doing. It has a spiritual, meaningful value. Islam is a religion of spirituality. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, كان رسول الله لا يؤثر على الصلاة عشاء ولا غيره وكان إذا دخل وقتها. Now I'm going to end after this hadith, going for the break, inshallah. عشاء ولا غيره وكان إذا دخل وقتها كأنه لا يعرف أهلا ولا حميما. Look at that. It's such a mind-blowing thing. Imam Ali alayhi salam says, Prophet was like this. He didn't used to give any importance, any preference to food or other things. And when the time of salat used to arrive, as if he doesn't recognize anyone, any family member or friend standing next to him. He does not recognize nobody. The first thing he would go and do is do his prayers as soon as the time arrives. This is one of the long list of reasons why Prophet is so high, and he has the greatest nuraniyat, illuminous soul. Because look at the level of importance he holds for Allah. Inna Allah yunzilu al-abd haythu anzalahu al-abdu min nafsihi. Allah holds the same importance for you, the level of importance that you give to Allah. There are some people who pray their Zohr and Asr and Maghrib and Isha with one wudu. And there are some people who pray all the 5 prayers with one wudu. Fajr is qada, na'udhu billah, God forbid. And Zohr and Asr is at the last time. And then they pray the Maghrib and Isha. All the 5 prayers with one wudu. That's the level of importance some people give to Allah. Isn't it right? And look at the level of importance that Prophet didn't. Imam Ali says, this is how the Prophet was. As if he doesn't even recognize there's any family member standing next to him. There's a friend standing next to him. He doesn't care. Time of prayers comes, Prophet goes straight and starts his prayers. That's it. That's how you get the closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. First things first. I remember Imam Khomeini Ridwanullah alayh, he had a press conference in Paris. And there were a whole bunch of media people, correspondents sitting in front of him. And he asked for his son, Mustafa Khomeini, is this the time of prayers? And he said, yes, it has started. The time started. He just stood up and, he said to everyone, this time of prayers and I need to go. He went away, doesn't care about what the people would think. He went away and did his prayers and then he came back. This is the sunnah of Rasulullah, giving importance to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina wa nabiyyina Muhammadin wa alihi ta'ala. Inshallah, we are going to continue after the break.
Inshallah, we are going to start with the 10 minutes break. So at 3:15, we will start with the session 2. And we are going to hold off for the question answers. And then we'll cover in this session 2 question answers. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
لا تقم رجاء. أنا أعتذر.
كيف حالك؟
الله يعزك سيدنا، كيف أحوالكم؟ مستريح سيدنا، تفضل سيدنا. زوجتي قد بعثت لك من العراق عباءة وتم.
لا تسبب زحمة. الله، عجيب عجيب.
أمانة هذه من عندها، وتما من مضيف الإمام العباس عليه السلام.
ما شاء الله ما شاء الله. سبحان
رايس
الله.
وعلق بيرم.
ما شاء الله.
هذه صعب الحصول عليها سيدنا. هذا تراب
ما شاء الله.
من تحت ضريح الإمام الحسين.
ما شاء الله، أكبر هدية في العالم.
هذا
ما
صعب.
Bar Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad Salawat. Brothers, fortunately we have a break, but Maulana didn't. Because that's why we holded the question answer for the second session. So please, when we are having a break, let him have a break too. And hold your question till the question answer session. Because right now, the speed we are going, the Salat will be close to 8:15, 8:30. We don't want to miss our prime time on the Salat. So please hold your question to the question answer session. Par Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad Salawat.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. So back to our presentation. I was talking about this hadith of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, where he's mentioning one of the important factors, and this is what we learn. This is one of those greatest factors that makes Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam so great in the eyes of Allah. Look at the level of importance Rasulullah holds for Allah. That whenever the time of prayers comes, used to come as if he doesn't recognize any family member, a friend. First thing the Prophet would do always is just go for prayers. Obviously, we can understand sometimes me and you maybe in some emergency situation or something. That's a different story. You know, if we have a daruratun shar'iyya or some emergency situation, that's okay. But in the normal situations, we should try as much as we can to follow the footsteps of the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Let's go to the next one. That's also another hadith from Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, as we are talking about the importance of Salat in the eyes of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. So here he says, La yazalu ash-shaytanu yar'abu min bani adama. Wow, that's such an amazing bit of information for us. La yazalu ash-shaytanu yar'abu min bani adama ma hafaza ala salawat al-khams. فإذا ضيعهن تجرأ عليه وأوقعه في العزائم. That's in Bihar al-Anwar, volume 82. So here Amir al-Mu'mineen says that Satan continues to be afraid from the humans. So we human beings are the most superior of all the creatures of Allah. We are the ashraf and afdal of all the creatures. No one can parallel the highness of a human if he's a human. I know, it's definitely embarrassing to see some of the humans doing things that makes them reach the level where they are compared to beasts or become worse than the animals and beasts. Isn't it right? Doing things that even the animals would never do. Like Imam Rida alayhi salam recited the shi'r of his great-grandfather Hazrat Abdul Muttalib. Isn't it right? Where Imam Rida alayhi salam says, وَإِنَّ الذِّئْبَ يأكل لحم ذئب وإن الذئب يترك لحم ذئب ويأكل بعضنا بعضا عيانا. This is what Imam Rida alayhi salam recited from the shi'r and the poem of Hazrat Abdul Muttalib, that certainly a wolf leaves the flesh of a fellow wolf. A wolf certainly does not consume the flesh of a wolf. وَيَأْكُلُ بَعْضُنَا بَعْضًا عَيَانًا, whereas some of us are eating up some others. Isn't it right? There are humans who are killing the humans and slaughtering them. So, and there are humans who are supervising and supporting and training and funding those cutthroats. So, coming back to the point that we humans are the most superior if we are humans, if we preserve our humanity. And Satan initially is afraid from us. So how does Shaitan overcome us while we are the most superior? Here is the answer. Satan continues to be afraid from the human beings as long as we protect our 5-time prayers. How do we protect the 5-time prayers? By praying those prayers according to its conditions on time. If you pray your prayers by the conditions fulfilled on the time, that's how you protect it. So if as long as a human being is protecting his 5-time prayers, Satan continues to be afraid. He will keep a distance from you. He cannot overcome you. He will try to deceive from a distance as well. He came even behind Prophet Ibrahim. Who are we? We are not superior than Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam, the second most superior messenger. Satan even came behind him to deceive him, so he does not slaughter his son Ismail upon the command of Allah. So he will still come behind us, but he will be scared. When does the Satan become, overpowers us? When we lose our salat, our 5-time prayers, that's where he braves us and makes us fall into the rest of the bigger sins. So, if you find a person who is sinning, we must understand his prayers are not accepted by Allah. His prayers are not considered to be prayers in the dictionary of Allah. So he should, first things first, he should correct his prayers and his sins will be removed. The hadith number 7, and we are coming to the end of this segment. This one is from Imam Sadiq. For prayers, we have huge bulk of narrations. Definitely, we cannot talk about, all of those. For some of the subjects of Islam, we have less information reaching us. I won't say the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt did not tell us. I won't say that. But less information reaching us. So many of our narrators had been slaughtered in the history. Our books of hadith being burnt. Right? Some of the narrators used to bury the books of hadith that they are writing and compiling from Ahlul Bayt and bury in the ground inside their own houses before leaving their house, because enemies and Taghut governments can raid anytime into their houses to grab those books of hadith of Ahlul Bayt and burn them. So I won't say that Prophet and Ahlul Bayt did not tell. Maybe they told, but it didn't reach us. Our history has gone through so much of massacres. So, like Imam Khomeini Ridwanullah Alayhi used to say, our history is a red line. And that's so true. It's a red line of blood and sacrifices, starting from our prophets and imams. Not to talk of the rest of the millions who became shaheed. Isn't it right? We have 11 of our imams. What to talk of the rest who became shaheed? Isn't it right? So it's a red line of blood and sacrifices. That's how our religion survived. Alhamdulillah. So Imam Sadiq says, so some of the subjects I was saying, we have less information reaching us, like Islamic economics. The first book ever written was by Imam Ayatollah al-Uzma, Sayyid Muhammad Baqir as-Sadr, rahmatullah alayh. Isn't it right? The first ever books on economics. You have very less information reaching us. But for some of the subjects in Islam, we have huge informations reaching us. And Salaat is one of those where you have so much available. And the largest chunk of information is about what subject? Can any one of you tell me? Raise your hand if you know the answer. What subject of Islam has the highest level of information told to us? Yes, sir? No. That's one of the huge numbers, huge, chunk of information databases that we have, but not the highest. Yes? No. Yes? Partly correct, but actually the walayat and imamat of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. The largest number of information database that we have, if you compare the huge informations that we have on various subjects. The largest number of information we have is about the concept of imamat and walayat of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. So, for Salat is one of the largest informations that we have here. Imam Sadiq says, so I had to pick and choose. I just mentioned few of the hadiths, to give you some ideas about the importance of Salat. Here is it's an excerpt from the hadith. So I put those dots. فَأَوَّلُ شَيْءٍ يَسْأَلُهُ عَنْهُ الصَّلَاةِ. On the Day of Judgment, when a person will be resurrected, question number 1 that will be asked on the Day of Judgment, precisely question number 1 that will be asked from every person resurrected on the Day of Judgment is about the Salat. Here's the question number 1 that we are discussing today. So you can again understand the importance of Salat. So this is pretty much about the importance. Let's go back so you know where we are. We were talking about, first of all, about importance in the of Salat in the eyes of Quran, and then we talked about importance of Salat in the eyes of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. Now we are going to go to point number 3, which is the kinds of Salat, and those are 6 prayers. We are talking about the wajib prayers, not the mustahab ones, which are 6. First of all, a liability waiver from all of you to please read it. A liability waiver for myself. The Salat has 4,500 plus rulings in our Islamic jurisprudence. So if you happen to be in, for example, if you go to the Hawza of Qum, which is the biggest Hawza of learning of knowledges of Ahlul Bayt in the world right now, if somebody goes to Qum and you want to study Dars Kharij, Bahsul Kharij on the subject, on the chapter of Salat from a mujtahid in Qum, Dars Kharij is the highest level of learning. It takes about 9 years to complete just chapter of Salat. So this is a liability waiver for me. Do not consider this 6-hour presentation to be sufficient. This is just the tip of the iceberg. This is a little bit, we are talking about some of the most important things of the Salat. Do not consider it to be the complete information. There's so much more, and you can understand it's a 9 years of learning process. It's impossible to summarize in 6 hours. Now let's go to the types of Salat, the wajib prayers, which are 6 types of prayers we have. The first one is the Yawmiyah, which is the 5 times daily prayers that we pray. We call it a Salawatul Yawmiyah, the daily prayers, and the Fajr and the Dhuhr and the Asr and the Maghrib and the Isha. And second of all, Qada'ul Walid, the Qada and miss prayers of your father, which is wajib on the eldest son. If there is no eldest son, it's not wajib on the daughter. If the eldest son dies, it's not wajib on the middle son or the younger son or the elder daughter or the middle daughter or the younger daughter. It's only wajib on the eldest son to do the qada prayers and the qada fastings of your father. So this is also wajib. One person died and he asked his son to do 50 years of for example, qada prayers. 50 years of qada prayers, that means for 65 years of your life, what the heck did you do? 65 years of your life. The son doesn't have time to do his own prayers. And are you expecting him to do 55 years of your prayers? This is the level of importance. Yeah, so I was just talking to a sister a few minutes ago, and I said to her, in the barzakh, in the grave, there is no question about any mustahab. So Khatmul Quran, reading Quran for a dead person is very good. Doing other mustahab things is very good. But this is not going to replace the wajib stuff. The most important thing that you can help your relative, your friend in the barzakh, in the time when he's staying in the grave, is to fulfill his wajibs. Reading Quran is not wajib, it's a very good thing, but it's mustahab, it's recommended. Okay? If you can fulfill his wajibat, this is what he's going to be asked there. First things first. So let's adjust our priority list with that of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so we can succeed. So qada'ul walid, if your father had missed his prayers, the best service, if you love your dad, the best service you can do for your dad, is to focus on doing his wajib prayers first. You do it yourself. Even if you're not the eldest son, it's not wajib on you, fine. But if you do it, the sawab and the reward will reach your father. Isn't it right? If you can't do it, if you pay to somebody to pray, to do the prayers in niyabat and proxy, that's also one of those options. At least he gets the sawab of the prayers. So he is no longer held accountable of the prayers. So see, if you remember, in the hadith of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, إِذَا مَاتَ ابْنُ آدَمْ دَخَلَ مَعْهُ فِي قَبْرِهِ سِتَّةُ صُوَرٍ. When a son of Adam dies, when a human dies, 6 faces, 6 forms and shapes enter along with him inside the grave. It's a long hadith. I'm not going to go into those details. The point that I want to tell you is that those 6 nur, 6 forms and shapes of nur and divine light entering into the grave with every person, every mu'min. On the right hand side is the nur of his prayers. All the prayers that he did is on the right hand side in the qabr. On the left hand side is the nur of his zakat, khums, fitra, all the taxes that he paid. In front of him is the nur of fasting. Behind him is the nur of hajj. At his feet is the nur of the help that he provided for his fellow mu'min brothers in his life. On the top of his head is the brightest of all the nur, anwar and lights on top of his head, which is the nur of his belief and practice and obedience of the walayat of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. This is what we learn in the light of so many of the hadiths. So coming to the point that I was trying to mention is that if you remember when we bury our dead in the grave, let's suppose this is the direction of Qibla. So we bury our dead like this, completely vertical, 90 degrees. Here is the head of the person, and here are the feet of the person. Let's suppose Qibla is in this direction. We turn the dead person like this, 90 degrees vertical. In the fatwas of our mujtahideen, even the nails of your toes of the feet should be facing towards Qibla. Exactly 90 degrees like this, vertical, not tilted. Okay? So what does that mean? When you are tilting the dead person, every dead in the grave, we are obliged to tilt him towards the right shoulder. That means in the duration of barzakh, every mu'min is resting on the mattress of his salaat. Isn't it right? On the right hand side was the nur of salaat. On the left hand side was the nur of zakat and khums and fitrah. For definitely, all of us are going to rest on the mattress of our salat for way longer duration than the mattresses that we sleep on the beds in our bedrooms and houses. How long is our age in this world? 60 years, 65, 70, 75 years, 100 years? Isn't it right? And then we're going to go to the graves, isn't it right? We don't know when is the zuhur of our Imam, his reappearance, maybe tomorrow, maybe after 1,000 years, Allah knows. And then after his zuhur is his government. How long? We don't know. And then we believe in raj'at, isn't it right? وَبِإِيَابِكُمْ مُوقِن. In Ziyaratul Waris, we say, وَبِإِيَابِكُمْ مُوقِن. I have yaqeen and certitude about you, Ahlul Bayt, returning back. We believe in the Raj'at. Ahlul Bayt will return back. According to some narrations, the first person to return back is Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. And the second person to return back is Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Again, we don't know how long is the duration of the government of Imam Hussein. But the narration says his eyebrows will become so big that it will fall over his eyes. And we know that probably the slowest growing hairs in the body of a human being, probably one of the slowest growing hairs in the body of a human is the eyebrows. So the narration says the government of Imam Hussein will last for that long that his eyebrows will start coming in front of his eyes. So long. God knows how long. And then how long would be the government of Imam Ali? And then other Imams? We don't know. We have no clue about the lengths and durations. So how many years? We don't know. And then will be the day of judgment. So definitely all of us, we are going to be lying in our graves for way longer durations than our life in this dunya. Isn't it right? Some people could not sleep in their beds until they have those special mattresses with their sleep numbers and memory foams. Isn't it right? And special Swedish mattresses. How much importance do we give to the mattress where we are going to live for, certainly we are going to lie down for way longer duration. And that is the mattress called Salaat, because we turn our dead persons over the right hand side. On the noor of the prayers, you will be resting. Just imagine if somebody did not pray, this noor is missing. So the hellfire and the flames of the hellfire are coming to this dead person from his right hand side where he's resting. Is constantly burning from the right-hand side with the flames of fire. Coming back to what we are discussing is number 2, qada of the walid. The best sign of love that you can display to your father is instead of doing the mustahab things for him after his death, you do the wajib things for him. First things first. Number 3, Salatul Ayat. When some of those signs, the blackish, the reddish winds blowing, earthquakes, solar eclipses, lunar eclipses, etc. When those signs appear, isn't it right? We do our Salatul Ayat. We keep on doing it every now and then throughout the year, isn't it right? At least once, twice, thrice, we do it every year, isn't it right? Anybody who didn't do his Salatul Ayat, when these signs are appearing, we have lunar eclipses taking place. After a few months, we have solar eclipses taking place once in a while. Anybody who didn't do it, he has to do qada, ASAP. So that's the Salatul Ayat, prayers of the signs, which is wajib. Fourth of all is Salatul Tawaf. When you do the rotations around Kaaba. Can the sisters see me here? All of you? So here is the holy Kaaba. Okay. And that's the holy spout where the water flows down when it rains. And that's the black stone located with the sign of the imamat and walayat of the imam of our times. And here is the door of the Kaaba located. Right now they put the name of that stupid Wahhabi Al Saud ruler in whose time the door is constructed. And people put those doors of Kaaba in their living rooms, and I always say to our brothers and sisters, please black out those 2 bottom lines on the door because in the two lower bottom lines, the name of the Al Saud ruler is written in whose time the door was made. So we don't want his name to be hanging in our houses. Okay, so here is the Holy Kaaba like this. Okay, so here is the horseshoe shaped wall which we call the Hijr of Ismail. Isn't it right? The Prophet used to sit here in this area somewhere and recite the Holy Quran. And those mushrik idol worshippers, when they used to come to rotate around Kaaba, they used to put their hands over the ears so they don't end up listening to the beautiful voice of the Prophet. So many people converted to Islam by listening to the beautiful voice of Rasulullah and the greatness of Quran, which they understood. So this is called Hijr of Ismail. Our dua is mustajab if you stand under the water spout and pray, or in front of black stone. So here is the place from where Hazrat Fatima bint Asad salamullah alayha entered, exactly opposite to the door on the other side. And here is the maqam of Ibrahim alayhi salam, where we stand and pray 2 rakats of prayers at this spot. The closer the better. So coming back to the point, we do the rotations of the Kaaba counterclockwise between the maqam of Ibrahim, where there is a stone having the mark of the feet of Prophet Ibrahim, our great-grandfather, who, along with his son, Prophet Ismail alayhim salam, constructed the Holy Kaaba. So if we do the rotation like this, isn't it right? Around the Holy Kaaba, counterclockwise, 7 times, starting from the black stone. They made a black line on the floor for people to determine from far away that they are, in front of the black stone. So we start the rotation from this spot, in front of the black line, counterclockwise, 7 times. So this is called tawaf. Okay, and after doing the tawaf, we stand here, the closer the better, this place, and do 2 rakats of prayers, which is called Salaat tawaf. The prayers of rotation. Okay, this is wajib to do. If you're performing a wajib tawaf, it's wajib to do. Whenever you enter the masjid where the Kaaba is located, we call it Al-Masjidul Haram. Al-Haram in Arabic means it has hurmat and dignity, the dignified mosque. So that is the most superior and the most sacred mosque on the planet. So whenever we enter into Al-Masjidul Haram, the sacred mosque, this is the respect. When you enter any masjid on the planet Earth, you pray 2 rakats of prayers, which we call Salatu Hadiyatil Masjid. You are giving a gift to the mosque. When you enter the masjid, it's part of the etiquettes. We do 2 rakats of mustahab prayers, gifting to the mosque. That's the way you are paying respect to the mosque. Except this mosque, Al-Masjid al-Haram. When you enter, you don't start your prayers first. The first thing you do is the 7 rotations of the Kaaba. And after doing the 7 rotations, then we go to the maqam of Ibrahim and we pray 2 rakats of prayers at the maqam of Ibrahim. Any time and every time you enter the Holy Kaaba, this part of the etiquettes, you first do the 7 rotations. Even though you are a resident of Makkah and you already perform 100 Hajj, but still, whenever you enter, it's mustahab to do 7 rotations and then do 2 rakats of prayers at the maqam of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So this is, if you are doing a wajib tawaf, then the 2 rakat prayers will be wajib. Okay, so this is what we are talking about, number 4, Salatul Tawaf. Then you enter into the Masjid al-Haram. And the first time you happen to look at the Kaaba, do your dua. After your first look at the Kaaba, Your first dua is mustajab and accepted by Allah. Because looking at Kaaba itself is a worship and ibadat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Prophet has said, "An-nazaru ila al-Ka'bati ibadatun." Looking at the Kaaba is ibadat and worship. Just like the Prophet had said, "An-nazaru ila wajhi aliyin ibadatun." Looking at the face of Ali is ibadat. And Imam Ali has so much similarity to the Holy Kaaba, isn't it right? Prophet had said, "Ya Ali, ma masaluka fin nas illa, masaluka masalul Kaaba." Prophet said, your parable, your example is that of Kaaba. Tu'ta wala ta'ti. People are obliged to come to the Kaaba. Kaaba is not obliged to go to the people. Tuhajjo wala tahij. People are obliged to come for Hajj to the Kaaba. Kaaba is not obliged to go for Hajj of the people. So that's the example of Imam Ali. People are obliged to come towards the imamat and walayat of Imam Ali alayhi salam. He is not obliged to go to the people. So Imam Ali is so much looking at his face as ibadat. That's narrated by Al-Mu'minin Aisha. She is the rawi and narrator of this hadith. I saw my dad, Abu Bakr, staring at the face of Imam Ali. And I asked my dad, why are you looking at him? And my dad said, didn't you hear the statement of Rasulullah when he said, "An-nazaru ila wajhi aliyin ibadatun"? Didn't you hear that the Prophet said, looking at the face of Ali is ibadat? So the narrator of this narration is Al-Mu'minin Aisha. So this is the Salatul Tawaf. Let's move to the fifth prayer, which is Salatul Mayyit, the prayers for the dead. We do the prayers for the dead person. That's wajib. Wajibun kifai, isn't it right? So if you hear the news, it's wajib on all those people who hear the news to wajib falls on the neck of all. Now, if some go and do the job and the job gets done, it's no longer wajib on the rest. If nobody goes and the job didn't get done, then all those 500 people who heard the news that this Muslim guy passed away in the community, all those 500 people are sinners, because the wajib fell on the neck of all those who heard the news equally. Okay? We are going to come to Wajibun Kifai very soon to talk in a bit more detail about that. Salatul Mayyit is also Wajibun Kifai. So that's sort of wajib. Now, sixth of all is Salatul Nazr, and Ahad means covenant, and Qasam means the swearing. So if you happen to do the Islamic way of doing the Nazr, Nazr is not like you say, I do a Nazr. मैं नज़र मानता हूँ, मैं नज़र मानती हूँ. इस तरह से नज़र नहीं होती इस्लाम में. You don't do the Nazr like this. Nazr in Islam has a specific sigha and Arabic formula to be recited. You either recite the Arabic formula in Arabic or its exact translation in your language. And the formula is Lillahi alayya an af'ala kada wa kada wa kada. So you need to say it in Arabic to make your nazar wajib and binding, or its exact translation in your own language. For the sake of Allah, it is incumbent upon me, for example, to slaughter a sheep if Allah provides a job for me. So if you say that statement, then and only then the nazar becomes wajib on you. If Allah provides you a job, it will be wajib on you to slaughter a sheep because you recited the formula. So if you just say, I do a nazar, that's not wajib. That's not the way of doing the nazar. So if somebody does a nazar of praying any number of rakats of prayers, it will become wajib if you do the nazar in the Islamic way of doing the nazar by doing the sigha. Or Salatul Ahad, Ahadtullaha, which has the sigha in Arabic again, or its translation in your own language, that I make a covenant, an ahad towards Allah to do this and this and this. Ahadtullaha an usalliya rak'atayn, masalan, for example. So if you do the ahad in the Islamic way, or qasam. Qasam is something which is always in Islam. The concept of swearing and qasam is in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only, or in the name of any of his specific attributes which are not there for anyone else. For example, the word Ar-Rahman. Ar-Rahman is the specific name of Allah only. How we say that it is ismun khas bisifatin amma. It's a specific name with a general application. And Ar-Rahim is ismun am bisifatin khassa. Ar-Rahim is the opposite. In English we say the compassionate, the merciful. Well, honestly speaking, none of those two words represent the actual meaning of Ar-Rahim and Ar-Rahman. Arabic is a very deep language. So Ar-Rahim, is a general name with a specific application of its meanings, whereas Ar-Rahman is a specific name with a general application of its meaning. So it's haram. It's not allowed for any person to name himself or his son to be Rahman. That's not allowed in Islam. Just like it's not allowed you name your son to be Allah. Is it allowed to name your son to be Allah? There is no one Allah other than Allah. Isn't it right? Likewise, Ar-Rahman, there is no one Ar-Rahman other than Ar-Rahman, who is Allah. It's not allowed to name yourself or your son to be Ar-Rahman. You can name your son to be Ar-Rahim. You can name your son to be Abdur Rahman, the slave of Rahman, slave of the Rahman, but you cannot name your son to be Ar-Rahman, because that's a specific name of Allah. So coming back to the swearing, in Islam we swear only on either A, the name of Allah, or B, a specific title of Allah which is not possible to be applied on anyone else other than Him. For example, Rabbul Alameen, there is no one who is the Lord of the universe. That's specific to Allah only. Isn't it right? For example, Al-Khaliq, the creator. There is no one who is the creator other than Allah. Isn't it right? And so forth. The list is long. So in Islam, we can swear only on the name of Allah or any of His specific names or attributes. Like, so you can say, Wallahi. That's an Islamic way of swearing. I swear to Allah. Or Billahi. Or Tallahi. Or War-Rahman. I swear to Rahman. Or Warabbil Alameen. I swear to the Lord of the universe. Or Warabbil Kaaba, like Imam Ali said when he was hit by that strike of Ibn Muljam, la'natullah alayh. So those are the words which are specific to Allah, and that's how we swear. तो ये नहीं होता कि नहीं तुम्हारे सर की कसम, तुम्हारे बच्चे की कसम. This is not an Islamic way of swearing. It holds no value in Islamic fiqh. So if you do the Islamic qasam, like I explained, it's binding. Now you have to fulfill. Okay? So if you did a qasam that I'm going to pray, for example, 2 rakats of prayers, for whatever reason, then it becomes wajib on you to fulfill your qasam and you pray. So this is one of those 6 wajib, 6 types of wajib prayers that become wajib. So now coming to the Yawmiyya prayers, which are 17 rakats are wajib and 34 rakats are mustahab, the nafila, the nawafil, 2 for the fajr, we know that, 4 for the dhuhr, 4 for the asr, 3 for maghrib, and 4 for isha. These are the wajib prayers. And 34 are the mustahab ones. So we do 2 rakats of the nafila, the recommended prayers, nafila of fajr, we do it before the fajr. So when the azan of fajr, the time of azan enters, we do the 2 rakats of nafila of fajr first, and then we do the fajr prayers. And then we have the 8 rakats of nafila, nawafil of dhuhr prayers, which we do 2 rakats, 2 rakats, 2 rakats, 2 rakats, like that. That you do also before the dhuhr prayers. So when the time of the adhan of Dhuhr comes, that's where you do your 8 rakats of nafila of Dhuhr. If you have time to do that, that's mustahab. It's not wajib, but it's mustahab. So, excuse me, you do the 8 rakats of nafila of Dhuhr before the Dhuhr, then you do the Dhuhr prayers, then you do the 8 rakats of nafila of Asr, and you do the Asr prayers. If you have the time for that, it's mustahab. Excuse me. 4 rakats of Maghrib Nafila Mustahab prayers, recommended prayers that we do after the Maghrib prayers. We do 2 rakats and 2 rakats, that's the 4 rakats of Maghrib's Nafila. And 2 rakats of Isha prayers that we do it in the sitting position, which is more recommended than the standing position. So because it has more sawab, so we do it in the sitting position. You can also do it in the standing position if you want to, but it's more recommended to do it in the sitting position. So when a prayer is done in the sitting position, it becomes double. So if you were doing the nafila of Isha in the standing position, you would just do it 1 rakat. Because we do it in the sitting position for the sake of more sawab, that's why we do it 2 rakats. So originally, the nafila of Isha is a 1 rakat prayer. Isn't it right? We do it 2 rakats because we are doing it in the sitting position to get more sawab as compared to the standing. So that's how the total comes to be 51. If you remember, where in the hadith where the signs of mu'min are mentioned, one of that is Salatul Khamseen. A mu'min prays 50 rakats of prayers, Salatul Wahida wal Khamseen. A mu'min prays 51 rakats of prayers daily. Isn't it right? So this is how it becomes 51, when you also include the 11 rakats of Salatul Layl, the night prayers. Night prayers is divided into 3 segments. First segment is what we call Nafilatul Layl, the nafila of the night, which is 8 rakats, 2 rakats, 2 rakats, 2 rakats, 2 rakats. 8 rakat prayers is called Nafilatul Layl. And then you pray 2 rakats of prayers separately, which is called Salatul Shafa'. And then you pray 1 rakat of prayers at the end, which is called Salatul Witr. So this is how it becomes 11 in total. In the last rakat, Salatul Witr, we do the prayers, we seek forgiveness by mentioning the names of 40 mu'mins. Isn't it right? It's a lot of sawab. Huge, huge sawab for that. So this is how it becomes 51 rakats. This is the Yawmiyah, and so basically we are talking about the wajib ones in this presentation. Mustahab prayers are better than the wajib from one aspect, because you're doing more than what you were supposed to do. Isn't it right? So many of the mustahab things in Islam have more sawab than so many of the wajib things. It makes perfect sense, because you are doing more. You are going one step further, going and walking an extra mile. You're not obliged to do that, but you're still doing it. Isn't it right? So it's not a surprise that so many of the mustahab prayers, mustahab things of Islam, have more sawab than so many of the wajib things. The most superior mustahab prayer definitely is Salatul Layl, the night prayers, which is the most superior of all the mustahab prayers. And Prophet had said 2 rakats in the middle of the night are more beloved in my eyes than the whole world and all what is in it. Prophet didn't say $1 million. Isn't it right? So somebody may say, well, now I got $1,001, so I don't care about the Salatul Layl. Prophet said the whole world and what is in it. So even if you give the whole world to the Holy Prophet and all what is in it, he won't care about that. Nothing. Isn't it right? Because 2 rakats of prayers is more beloved to him in the middle of the night than this whole world and all that it carries in it. So mustahab prayers need to be given importance. Our urafa are great, the greatest of all the rest of the people. One of the reasons why they are the greatest, because they do nothing in their life except a wajib or a mustahab, period. They don't do harams, Obviously, they don't do the makruh things either. They don't do the mubah things, which are okay to do and okay not to do. Like drinking water, walking, talking, sleeping, all those mubah things. Which are mubah means something which is okay to do and okay not to do. They don't do those things. They do all that stuff qurbatan ilallah, in order to seek the nearness of Allah. So that's how they convert their mubah things into mustahab. So when they go to sleep, they sleep with the niyat and intention of qurbatan ilallah. So that becomes a mustahab for them, like a mustahab for them. When they talk qurbatan ilallah. So that mubah becomes a mustahab, like a mustahab for them. When they eat food, they eat it qurbatan ilallah. When they drink something, they drink it qurbatan ilallah. Isn't it right? So if you eat the food so that I become strong, so I can serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you have that intention, this eating the food is no longer mustahab for you, mubah for you. It is now mustahab. So our urafa are high, and one of the reasons is that they do nothing in their life except a wajib or a mustahab. That's it. Now, coming to the definition of a wajib and a mustahab, we need to understand what the word wajib means and what the word mustahab means. Our scholars and fuqaha say wajib is an act with maslahatun shadida fi wara'iha. It's something which has a benefit of a severely important level hidden behind it, because Allah loves us and He doesn't want us to miss out on that high level of important benefit hidden behind that thing. Allah loves us. He doesn't want us to miss out on that. He made it wajib, so we do it necessarily so we get that benefit, because He loves us. He's not the one who is benefiting out of anything that we do. He doesn't stand in need of nothing. Isn't it right? He's God. If He stands in need of something, He's no longer God. So if the whole world denies Allah, He will continue to be the only Almighty Lord. If the whole world believes in Him, no one can benefit Him, no one can harm Him. Isn't it right? This is what we benefit if we realize. When our daughters do the hijab, when our sons, give importance to the Islamic values and wajibs, we are the ones who are doing a favor on our own souls, if we understand. You're not doing a favor on Allah. No one can do a favor on Allah. Isn't it right? No one can benefit God. He doesn't need any benefit from anyone. And the ruling of our Islamic jurisprudence says you have to do it. If you do, you get rewarded as well. If you don't, you are punished. You get rewarded as well? Why? Why in the world are we rewarded for doing a wajib? So my teacher, Ayatollah Sheikh Jawad Tabrizi, rahmatullahi alayh, I studied my lessons of Dars-e Kharij, Bahth al-Kharij, from the lessons of Ayatollah al-Uzma Sheikh Jawad at-Tabrizi, passed away a few years ago, a very great marji of ours. So he said in his lesson, my teacher said that Allah is not obliged to reward anyone on the Day of Judgment. Allah is not obliged to reward anyone on the Day of Judgment for what we do. Why would Allah be obliged? If we did something, is He the one who benefited from our acts? No. Why would He be obliged to reward us? If we did something, we are the ones who were at the benefiting end. We received the benefit. Isn't it right? Not Allah. Why would He be obliged to reward us? He's not obliged. No one can oblige God for doing anything. Who are we to oblige the Creator to do something for us? We are not even His parallel. But He's still going to do the reward. Why? He's certainly going to reward us on the Day of Judgment. Why? Because He promised to give the reward. And Allah never breaches His promises. Inna Allah la yukhliful mi'ad. Had He not promised us, there is no reason to human intellect or to the Sharia to oblige Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do anything for anyone. He's fulfilling His promise. That's His mercy. That He's also rewarding us on the Day of Judgment for doing the wajibs. We prayed, we benefited. So what it has to do with Him? Isn't it right? He's rewarding us just to fulfill His promise. A mustahab means an act with maslahatun ghayru shadidatin. An act which has a benefit hidden behind it, but the level of importance of that benefit is not that high. It is important, but not that high. So Allah did not make it wajib. If it was higher level of important benefit, He would have definitely made it wajib for us because He loves us. But because it doesn't have a higher level of benefit hidden, so He didn't make it wajib. He made it mustahab, recommended. And the ruling says, you're not obliged to do that, but Allah likes it. The word mustahab itself in Arabic means something which is liked by Allah. So because Allah likes it, so if you do it, He rewards you. That's another mercy of Allah that He rewards us. And if you don't, you're not punished. But you're not obliged, so you're not punished. So that's the difference between a wajib and a mustahab. And likewise, you can imagine, I didn't mention here, but you can imagine the definitions in our fiqh for a haram and a makruh as well. A haram is an act which has severely important harm hidden behind it. Allah knows it. He has absolute knowledge. He loves us. He doesn't want us to fall in that harm. So He made it haram. So we avoid it necessarily because He loves us. So if we do it, we get punished. If we avoid it, qurbatan ilallah, we get rewarded. And makruh is something which has a harm hidden behind it, but not that big of a harm. If it was that big, Allah would have made it haram because He loves us. It has a harm of a lesser level. So Allah made it makruh. If you avoid it, it's better for your own self. If you avoid it, qurbatan ilallah, He is so merciful, He will also reward you. But if you don't avoid it, you do a makruh, you are not going to be punished because the harm was of a lesser level. Now coming to the types of wajibs. Can we take a break? Okay. وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين.
Brothers and sisters, again, 10 minutes break only. Please hold on to your questions because we are getting out of time. We'll do all the question answer. Please write your questions after the Salaat Maghriban. If you are not here, still it will be recorded. So 10 minutes, we do the break and let Maulana have a break too for 10 minutes. No, please sister, because he didn't have a break first. So let him have a break too for 10 minutes and then we come back and join and we can extend that till the time inshallah. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad Salawat. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad Salawat. Maulana just informed me it's a very important topic, so if we have to be continue after the Salat al-Maghriban, he will be continue because he needs to finish up this topic. It's put in a lot of effort into it, and if he leave it, it will be half of the knowledge, it not benefit you. So if we cannot finish that, we can start after the Namaz al-Maghriban, we do the dinner, and then we start again to finish up, and then we of course take your Q&A questions. Please write down your all questions and hand it over to Brother Masoom Ali, and at the end of the session, inshallah, we'll answer everything. Yeah, it's getting recorded, so you can see it later on, inshallah. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Please also one more request, if you can reuse these plates, it's a dry item, so please reuse the plates, so it will be saving plates. So please, it's a dry item, do not throw your plate away and reuse it for the next break, inshallah. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad Salawat. We're going to start again. I'd like to request you all, please recite the Surah Fatiha for all the community, Marhumin, especially Shuhada of Islam, Ulama Karam, Maraja Azam, and all of your Marhumin, and especially the volunteers are working here to put this program forward. Please recite Surah Fatiha for Marhumin and Surah Ikhlas tea time. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad Salawat.
आप मुझे बता दीजिए, इशारा कर दीजिए बस, ठीक है। أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Types of wajib. Wajib in our Islamic jurisprudence, in our fiqh, is divided into several types. I have mentioned 7 of those most important, most famous, some of the most important ones here. And I would like each one of you, especially our youth, to please pay attention so you understand these concepts, and you can apply it on every chapter of among all those 200 plus chapters of our Islamic jurisprudence. You can apply these on in every chapter. So it's something which is widely applicable. It will benefit you all over the Islamic jurisprudence. The first division of wajib is wajib excuse me, is either wajibun aini or wajibun kifai. Wajibun aini is before I explain that, I will go to wajibun kifai first. We did talk about wajibun kifai a little bit, about Salatul Mayyit. Wajibun kifai is a wajib, please pay attention. It's a wajib which is applicable on everyone equally, without any distinction. But if the number of people required to do the job take a lead over the rest and do the job, and the job gets done, then it's no longer wajib on the rest of the people. I repeat, wajibun kifai is a wajib which is wajib on everyone equally. But if the number of people required to do the job take a lead over the rest and do the job, and job gets done, then it's no longer wajib on the rest. That kind of wajib is called wajibun kifai. The example I just mentioned, that Salatul Mayyit. Not just Salat, not just the prayers on the dead body, but also giving the ghusl, the washing, Islamic way of washing. I'm using the word Islamic way of washing because when you talk about ghusl to some youth, they say, yeah, I took a shower. Well, taking a shower is not the ghusl, okay? We talk about the Islamic way of washing ourselves, okay? We have a special way of doing the ghusl, what we say, the Islamic way of washing. Islamic way of cleaning ourselves, Islamic way of washing and all that. So if somebody dies, if a Muslim dies, giving the Islamic way of washing to his dead body, wrapping the shroud, the kafan on his body, putting the hanut, tahneet, putting the hanut on, doing the hanut on those 7 parts of the sajda. I have another presentation on the ahkam of mayyit, isn't it right? So that's I think a 7-hour presentation on ahkam of mayyit, a PowerPoint presentation with all those details about, and so it's starting. So it's another very important subject to talk about, but that's not our subject today. So giving the Islamic ghusl and the kafan and the tahneet and the Salatul Mayyit and the burial of that mu'min, all these things are wajibun kifai. Let's suppose one Muslim dies in Dallas-Fort Worth area and the news reaches 500 people. Now this wajib of giving ghusl to him and kafan and hunut and Salatul Mayyit, prayers on his dead body and burial is wajib on the neck of those 500 people who heard the news. Now if the number of people required to do the job of washing the dead body takes obviously more than one person. One person cannot wash it that easily, isn't it right? So let's suppose there are 3 people required to do the job. So minimum 3 people need to go there. If only one person went there, he could not lift. This guy was like 230 pounds. He could not lift the body to put in the grave. Isn't it right? One person can't handle the job. The job didn't get done because only one person went there. Now, the rest of the 499 people in the community are all sinners. This is called wajibun kifai. It applies on everyone equal. If the number of people required to handle that job go there and the job gets done, then and only then it's no longer wajib on the rest. And if number of people didn't go there or only few went there who could not handle, they get the reward, but the rest of the people are sinners. So this is called wajibun kifai, and the opposite to that is wajibun aini, which means a wajib that applies on the neck of everyone equally, and everyone has to do it on his own. Somebody else or few people doing it will simply not suffice for you. You have to do it on your own. The example is Salatul Fajr. If you woke up for Salatul Fajr and you did your Salatul Fajr, it's not going to suffice for me, so I can keep on sleeping. It's not going to work. I have to wake up myself and do my Fajr myself. Isn't it right? Why? Because Salatul Fajr is wajibun aini, applies on everyone, and everyone has to do it on his own, on her own. Somebody else doing doesn't suffice for you. This is called wajibun aini. Any other example for wajibun kifai? If one of the sisters knows any example, please raise your hand for wajibun kifai in Islam other than ghusl of a mayyit. Yes, please. Oh, you can do, yes. Yeah, that's correct. Please say salawat for her. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. She says that if somebody is drowning, and let's suppose few people know how to swim and save the life of the drowning person, so it's wajib on all those people. And if some or one person who can handle the job goes first and he saves the life of the drowning guy, then it's no longer wajib on the rest. It's good. Another example of wajibun kifai from the brothers. Please raise your hand if you know it. Yes? Good. Say salawat for him. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Response to the salam of a person. As-salamu tatawwu' wal-raddu farida. Saying salam is mustahab in Islam. It's not wajib to say salam, but it's mustahab. Isn't it right? But response to the salam is wajib. The one who initiates the salam gets 69 out of the 70 rewards for salam. Another example where a mustahab has more reward than a wajib. Saying salam is not wajib, it's mustahab. But he gets most of the thawab, 69 out of 70. And only one out of 70 of the rewards goes to the one who replies back because he's just doing his wajib. Okay? So there are so many things in Islam, like I said, which are mustahab. They have more thawab than the wajib. So, yeah, replying to the salam of a person it takes only, the nature of this job takes only one person to reply. Whoever takes the lead first and replies back, it's no longer wajib on the rest to also say, wa alaikum salam, wa alaikum salam, wa alaikum salam. No need to say that, One person says, that's enough. Okay, the wajib is done. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam always used to take a lead. Always used to take a lead over saying salam, even towards the children. It's narrated in the history, never happened in the life of the Prophet that someone took a lead over him in saying the salam. He was always the first in saying the salam. Some people feel proud, or I would say use the word arrogance. Why would I say salam to him? These people are mahroom from the khair and goodness. They are deprived from the goodness. So, another example of wajibun kifai from the sisters. Visiting what? That's not wajib, it's mustahab. Giving water to the thirsty is also mustahab. The sisters have lost their turn, we go to the brothers. That's also good to do. It's not wajib. Okay, sisters have lost their turn. Brothers, any example from wajibun kifai? Yes. Yes. Say salawat for him, please. Moving the najasat from a masjid. If you enter into the masjid and you find there's a blood on the wall, even if you have started your prayers, is one of those 6 occasions where it's allowed to break your salat. First things first. Islam says, break your prayers. Allah says, break your prayers and clean the masjid. Islamically, clean the masjid first. Tathir of the masjid, first things first. Do the tathir of the masjid. Islamically, clean the wall from the blood first and then start your prayers. One of the 6 places where it's allowed to break your prayers. Okay, I'll take the questions later if you allow me. So now, yes, if the nature of the job says one person is sufficient to handle the job of cleaning the wall of the masjid from the blood, then, it's enough. One person did it, it's no longer wajib on the rest. Any other example from the sister's side? Yes, please. No, wearing hijab is wajibun aini. If one sister wears the hijab, it doesn't suffice for the other. She has to wear as well. It's not like that they are twin sisters. So one sister goes out with hijab alternately and the other sister goes out without the hijab. Because my sister is doing it, that's enough for me. It doesn't work like this. Everyone has to do it on her own. Isn't it right? So that's wajibun aini. So sisters have lost their, okay. Learning the knowledge. Say salawat for her, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Learning the knowledge of Islam is wajibun kifai. If, generally speaking, any community finds that there's the need for teaching the knowledges and sciences of Quran and Ahlul Bayt, this wajib, this duty is not performed. Sufficient number of pious scholars are not available. Qualified scholars are not the Hausa dropouts. I'm not talking about the Hausa dropouts. Okay, they cannot serve that purpose. Okay, the qualified scholars who have ilm and taqwa, a sufficient number of those are not available, and the job is not done the way it is needed. The wajib of learning knowledge falls on the neck of the entire ummah, without any distinction, equally. Now, if sufficient number of people required to handle the job, sufficient number of people become the pious scholars and they complete the education and they come back, it's no longer wajib on the rest to do. But if the sufficient number of people did not leave the convenience of their houses in Plano, Texas, and you find that the need is still there, then what's the answer? Obviously, those of the people If that's the case, that the job is not done, then the rest of the people will also be liable. So learning the knowledge of the Quran and Ahlul Bayt to become a scholar is also wajibun kifai. Okay, let's move forward. Any example for wajibun aini from the brothers? Yes. Doing salat. Good. Salawat for him. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Any example for wajibun aini from the sisters' side? Fasting. Wajibun aini. Salawat for her, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. All the rest of the wajibs are like this, isn't it? All the rest of the wajibs which are not kifai, all of them are wajibun aini. Let me move forward to the second one, please. We have a lot to learn today, inshallah. Wajibun ta'yini and wajibun takhyiri. Okay, ta'yini is that sort of wajib where you are not given any option to choose from. You only have one option. You have to do that one thing and that's it. Whereas wajibun takhyiri is that wajib where you have been given more than one option to choose from. You can either do this or you can do that. You have been given more than one option to choose from. One of those options is wajib, not both. Okay, this is called wajibun takhyiri. Examples. If you miss the fasting of the month of Ramadan, you did not fast and you broke your fast with a halal thing. For example, you drank water. Drinking water is halal in itself, isn't it right? But it's not halal to drink water during the fasting. It's not allowed to drink water during the fasting, but somebody did it and he broke his fast. So he broke the fast through drinking a halal thing. So now he has to give a kafara. And kafara is wajibun takhyiri. That means you have been given 3 options to choose from. Either A, you do 60 fastings, 31 have to be without a gap, and 21 can be with gaps. Or B, you have to feed 60 mu'min, 12 imami, mu'min, fakir, Islamically defined fakir and poor people, according to the definition of fakir in our Islamic jurisprudence. A fakir, a poor person, has a definition in Islam. Not every beggar on the street is classified to be a fakir in our jurisprudence. We have to make sure he falls in the category. Fakir is a term in our fiqh. So you have to give food to 60 12 imami, mu'min, Islamically defined fakir people. That's the second option you have been given. Or third, set free a slave, which is not possible. Islam eradicated slavery, alhamdulillah, and it's gone. Isn't it right? Those are the rulings that eradicated the slavery gradually. And now it's no longer there. If you ask any mujtahid today, every mujtahid would say to you, buying and selling of a human being is haram. So the third option is no longer there because Islam eradicated it successfully. So, but the bottom line is wajibun takhyiri. You have been given 3 different options to choose from. In addition to the qada, if you missed one fast, you have to do the qada as well. Okay? In addition to the 60 fastings, if you choose 60 fasting, plus you have to do the qada, plus you have to do the istighfar. You're not exempt from the qada. So this is wajibun takhyiri. Whereas the opposite to that is wajibun ta'yini, where you don't have any option. For example, the Fajr prayers. It's not like that I can pay $99 to my community center and get my Fajr prayers forgiven. No. That's not going to work. I can pay $500 to my community and I get my Hajj forgiven, so I no longer have to go through the hassles of Hajj. No. This does not work in our religion, Islam. Money cannot replace the wajib. Nothing can replace the wajib. Okay? So there is no other option. You have to do the Fajr and that's it. No other option, alternative option given to you. Only one thing, do the Fajr, that's it. Okay? So that's example of wajibun ta'yini. Okay, so let's move forward to the number 3, which is wajibun fawri and wajibun ghairu fawriyin. So fawri means immediate in Arabic. Ghair fawri means non-immediate. Wajib is also classified into those. Some of the wajibs in our fiqh are immediate in nature. You have to do it immediately without a delay, quote unquote, without any delay. And some of the wajibs are non-immediate, where it's okay to delay it. Okay? The examples of wajibun fawri is like replying back to the salam of a person. If somebody says salam to you and you reply back after 1 minute, you are a sinner. Because the urful uqala wal mutasharri'a, the regular Islamically intellectual people in the society, do consider 1 minute to be, quote unquote, a delay. That's not called immediate response. You kept the guy waiting for 60 seconds. Isn't it right? So you are a sinner because you messed up with the immediate wajib of Islam. You made it non-immediate. Okay? So this behavior will make us a sinner. You have to immediately reply, even though you may be praying in Islam. First of all, we don't say salam to a person who is praying. That's not the right thing to do. If you see somebody is praying, don't say salam to him. But if somebody said it, it's wajib to reply. Now, we are not supposed to say wa alaykumus salam or wa alaykas salam or wa alaykis salam. Not with those tenses of Arabic. It's not allowed. We are supposed to say assalamu alaykum or salamun alaykum by bringing the word salam ahead of the word alaykum. That's how we are supposed to reply during the prayers, necessarily. So if somebody says salam to you and you are praying, you have to either say assalamu alaykum or you would say salamun alaykum. You cannot say wa alaykas salam in the prayers. So, but replying back is wajib and immediate. Wajibun fawri, immediate wajib. You cannot delay. Wajibun ghair fawri is a non-immediate wajib. It's not immediate, you have a margin, a grace time given by Islam. For example, Fajr prayers. We have a bracket of like 1.5 hours, 2 hours, whatever time, whatever longitude, latitude you may be living on, depends. But usually we have a bracket of time, isn't it right? But not when I went to Oslo, Norway, I remember in those days that azan of Maghrib was at 11:30 p.m. and the adhan of Fajr was at 1 a.m. So obviously not in those locations, in those days of the year, but usually in most of the places in the world, we have a bracket of time. We have like 1 hour, 1.5 hour. So it's not wajib. It's always good to do the prayers in the beginning time. Obviously, we already said that, but it's not wajib. You can still delay it, okay? If you delay it for a few minutes, it's not haram to delay. So Salatul Fajr is not wajibun fawri. It's not an immediate wajib. Another example, brothers, for the wajibun fawri. Yes. Namaz ayat, good. That's very good example. But then it depends. If it's a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse, you have a bracket of time for as long as the eclipse lasts. You have the time to pray. For example, the solar eclipse or lunar eclipse takes 35 minutes, for example. So you have a bracket of 35 minutes. So in that case, it will not be immediate. It's better to do good immediately, but it's not wajib to do immediately. You can pray it immediately, or you can pray it after 5 minutes, after 10 minutes, after 15 minutes. So it will not be wajibun fawri, immediate wajib in that case. But in the case Salatul Ayat, in the case of earthquake, is immediate wajib. As soon as the earthquake happens, leave everything behind. The first thing you need to do is to do your Salatul Ayat, the wajibun fawri, okay? In the case of earthquake, please say salawat for the brother. Another example for the wajibun fawri, sisters. I, well, if a person is dying of some, in that situation, so obviously it's wajib on us to feed a mu'min who is dying. Yeah, for feeding a Muslim person who's dying is wajibun fawri. Yes. So please say salawat for her, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Okay, brothers, any example for wajibun fawri? Yes, please. If you have the goggles. Yes. You. Huh? Ayatul Sajda, good. Say salawat for him, please. You remember the story of Allama Al-Hilli, isn't it right? And he's one of those scholars who became baligh, Islamically mature. Before he became baligh, before he became Islamically mature, he became a mujtahid. Before that. So he was not even mature Islamically, not baligh, and he became a mujtahid. So we have one more scholar from India who was narrated by us mujtahideen and scholars that he was the one who became mujtahid in the earliest age in the history of Shia faith. But Allama Hilli, rahmatullah alayhi, is one of those precious few great scholars of ours. His books are part of the syllabus in our houses since centuries. Masterpieces that he has written. Tabsiratul Muta'allimeen and Shara'i al-Ahkam and of Muhaqqiq Hilli and Tabsiratul Muta'allimeen of Allama and so on, Bab al-Hadi Ashar and so forth. Such a great scholar. So he was a kid, isn't it right? He was not even baligh, but he became mujtahid. He did something, and his dad was a mujtahid too. His whole family, as a matter of fact, was mujtahid. His uncle was a mujtahid. His brother was a mujtahid. His dad was a mujtahid. His grandfather was a mujtahid. His son was a mujtahid. All this whole mujtahid family. So he did something. His dad ran after him to grab him, and he was not baligh. He recited the ayat of sajda. So the dad has to fell down and do the sajda immediately, and he ran away. So this is Al-Allama Al-Hilli, rahmatullahi alayhi. Because doing the sajda on the ayat of Quran, if you hear the complete ayat of Quran, where the sajda is wajib, and we will be talking about those ayat inshallah in the presentation. I'll give you those references. The 4 ayat in the Quran where the sajda is wajib. The rest are mustahab. Rest are the places where the sajda is mustahab, but there are 4 where the sajda is wajib. If you recite yourself or you hear to someone else reciting the complete ayat, then the sajda is wajib to do immediately. If you're driving, pull over to the shoulder and do the sajda. So that's wajibun fawri. I will take all the questions later because I stopped some other brothers. It will not be good to. Yeah, there is a controversy, but our mujtahideen say even if you are hearing from the audio cassette, a complete ayat, you listen to that, you do the sajda as well. There is a controversy among the mujtahideen about that. So, fawri and ghair fawri. So this is fawri, and then ghair fawri is so many other wajibs of Islam which are not immediate. Another example of wajib and fawri, before I move forward to number 4, is Hajj. Hajj is wajibun fawri, immediate wajib in Islam. Let's suppose it takes $7,500 according to today's market value, according to the regular average caravans going from America for Hajj. Let's suppose. So if you happen to have $7,500 in your account, more than your bills, then you cannot spend those $7,500 on anything. You have to keep it safe and pay it to the caravan, so you go for Hajj in the same year when you made those 7,500. Okay, because you are mustati, you are capable of going. Delaying the Hajj to the next year is ma'siyatun kabira. It's the bigger sin, gunah kabira. If somebody dies by delaying the Hajj, the hadith says he does not die as a Muslim. He may die as a Yahudi or Nasrani, but not as a Muslim. Delaying the Hajj is not allowed. Some of the Marajas say if somebody showed arrogance towards Allah and intentionally delayed it by showing arrogance, even his children and inheritors don't have the right to do Hajj in his behalf and proxy because he showed arrogance to Allah. So Hajj is something where it's a very strict ruling in Islam. So Hajj is wajibun fawri. We have to do it. Khums. Another example of wajibun fawri is khums. Okay, when the date of khums comes, no ifs and buts, no strings attached. The first thing you need to do is to give away your khums before you buy something from your money, before you do anything, any kind of usage or tasarruf in this mal, in this wealth. The first thing you need to do is take the wealth, the portion of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam out. You know, that's not yours. That's not yours, okay? 80% is yours. 20% belongs to Imam Sahibul Zaman alayhi salam, but you have to give that 20% first, and then you can use the 80%. If you did not take out the 20%, your tasarruf is not allowed. If, let's suppose, I have not, khums was liable on this abba that I'm wearing, and I did not, let's suppose I did not pay the khums, and I used the money which was liable to pay khums from, I used that money without paying khums, and I purchased this abba, all my prayers are batil. If I purchase a carpet in my house from a money which was liable to pay khums, but I did not pay khums on that money, instead I went forward and purchased a carpet, all the prayers that I perform by standing on that carpet are batil. Okay, so it's wajibun fawri, first things first. When a person dies, when my father, so let's suppose, dies, the first thing I would do is, first things first, if there is a khums liable on his wealth, I will first take the khums out before dividing the money in the inheritors. Okay? There's a list of to-dos about the inheritance. First thing that we need to do is to take the khums out. Hukukun nas, liabilities towards the people out, and so on and so forth. So, khums is wajibun fawri. I asked some of the youth in the community, what is your date of khums? When did you start your first job after becoming baligh? They don't remember. Isn't that surprising and bad? You don't remember when you did the first job after becoming Islamically mature? Why am I asking that? Because Islamically speaking, your date of khums is the day where you start your first job after becoming Islamically mature. Let's suppose you started your first job after becoming baligh, Islamically mature, on the 1st of January. So when next year, 1st of January arrives, that's your date of khums automatically. If our youth don't remember when they started their first job after becoming baligh, that's bad. How would you take your khums out when you don't even care about your date of khums? So, khums is wajibun fawri. Now let's go to number 4. There's so much to learn. Wajibun ta'abbudi and wajibun tawassuli. That's another division of wajib, which means that wajibun ta'abbudi is a wajib which necessarily requires from you to do the niyat and intention of qurbatan ilallah for that action. Whereas, to be correct, whereas wajibun tawassuli is a wajib where you are not necessarily required to do the niyat and intention of qurbatan ilallah for your action to be considered correct. Even if you don't do the niyat of qurbatan ilallah, it is still correct. That kind of action is called wajibun tawassuli. Examples. Where every ibadat and worship of Allah is wajibun ta'abbudi, prayers and fastings and homes and all the ibadat are like this. Every worship is like this. Every worship requires the niyat. Some people come up and say, my dad was a very nice person, Maulana, but you know what? He never paid khums. He did a lot of charity work. Can all those charities be counted in the place of khums? The answer is here. Do you understand the difference in Islam between number 4, wajibun ta'abbudi and tawassuli? Because khums is wajibun ta'abbudi in Islam, which means that it necessarily requires from the person to do the niyat of qurbatan ilallah before the action. Did your father, before those charities, did the niyat of paying the khums qurbatan ilallah before giving those charities? The answer to that is no. Then how can that be counted in the place of khums, which is wajibun ta'abbudi in Islam, which necessarily requires that intention? Okay, so every ibadat is wajibun ta'abbudi. Yeah, if your dad gave charities for the sake of God, nothing gets wasted with Allah. If we do something for the sake of Allah, it's always, be there with Him and we will be rewarded, inshallah. But it will not be counted in the place of khums. Khums is an ibadat and it requires the niyat. Niyat is something which is another subject of the presentation for hours to talk about the concept of niyat in Islam, but that's not our subject today, inshallah. But niyat is something that has to be before starting the action, through the action, till the end of the action. That's what niyat is all about. You cannot do the niyat in the middle of the action. I'm sorry, that's not going to work. You cannot do the niyat at the end of the action. Niyat has to be done before you start the worship. Throughout the worship, you maintain it. Up till the end of the worship, you successfully maintain your niyat, and that's how it's called a niyat. Let's suppose during the prayers, you lost your niyat. If somebody asks you, you don't know what you are doing. Somebody asks you, hey, what are you doing? What am I doing? Okay, let me think, what am I doing? That means you are out of your mind. Your salat is already batil. Please don't bother to continue. It's already gone. If you could not reply back, obviously we don't speak and don't reply. But if you were allowed to speak and if you were allowed to reply back, could you reply back immediately? If you could, then you have the niyat. If you could not, that means you lost. So the niyat is something that is before the start of the action, throughout the action, till the end of the action. That's how the niyat is. So every ibadat is wajibun ta'abbudi. Examples of wajibun tawassuli. Anyone from the sisters, can you give me an example of wajibun tawassuli in Islam? An act which does not necessarily require from us to do the niyat of qurbatan ilallah to be correct. Cleaning the najasat. Say salawat for her, please. Let's suppose I have only one dress to pray. If I had 2 dresses to pray and one became najis, it's not wajib on me to make it tahir and Islamically clean. I can just change my dress and wear the clean, Islamically tahir and Islamically clean one. Isn't it right? But let's suppose I have only one dress. And that one dress became najis. And now the time of Zuhr enters. When the time of Zuhr enters, I need to have clean dress. So now it becomes wajib on me to clean my dress so that I can do my Zuhr. Now cleaning this dress in the Islamic procedure of cleaning and tathir is wajib now because the time of Zuhr has entered and I have only one dress. Okay? This cleaning of the dress in that scenario is wajibun tawassuli. Even if I did not do the niyat of qurbatan ilallah, if I follow the process of Islamic cleaning, it will get cleaned and I can pray. Okay? This is called wajibun tawassuli. Let's move forward to number 5, wajibun asli and wajibun tab'i. Wajibun asli is a wajib which is wajib on its own, independently. Whereas wajibun tab'i is a wajib that is wajib not on its own, but for the sake of some other wajib. So it depends on some other wajib. Examples. Salaat is wajibun asli. It's wajib on its own. Okay? Whereas wudu is wajibun tab'i. Wudu is not wajib in Islam. Okay? Ghusl is not wajib in Islam. Even ghusl of janabat is not wajib in Islam. Ghusl of janabat becomes wajib when the time of prayers enters. When the time of zuhr comes and I have to do ghusl of janabat, now because I have to do my prayers and prayers requires the taharat, so now ghusl of janabat becomes wajib on me. Before the time of prayers enters, it's mustahab to do ghusl of janabat. It's not wajib. Wudu is not wajib in Islam. Wudu is mustahab in Islam. It becomes wajib when the time of prayers enters. Because I cannot do the prayers without the taharat. So now that the time enters, I have to do the prayers. Prayers requires wudu, so now the wudu becomes wajib for the sake of the prayers. So wudu is wajibun tab'i, a dependent wajib. It depends on the prayers. Another wajib, the prayers. Whereas prayers is wajibun asli, it's independently wajib. Isn't it right? Does not depend on any other wajib. Is that clear? Okay, let's move forward to number 6, wajibun daruri and wajibun nazari. That's another very important division of wajib. Wajibs are divided into 2, daruri and nazari. What does that mean? Daruri means self-evident and badihi. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to discover that. Every Muslim, just by being a Muslim, even the non-Muslims know that this is wajib in Islam. It's that much self-evident wajib. That kind of wajib is called wajibun daruri. Whereas wajibun nadari is a wajib which is not self-evident. You have to have istidlal. You need to have knowledge to install evidences to prove it. So you require knowledge to prove it. Okay? So that's called wajibun nazari. Examples. For example, the wujub of 5-time prayers. Every Muslim knows that Muslims have to pray 5 times a day. Even the non-Muslims know that Muslims have to pray 5 times a day. Prayers being wajib in Islam, it's a self-evident thing, self-evident wajib. Isn't it right? Every Muslim knows that. Even the non-Muslims know that. Wujub of hijab. Every Muslim knows the Muslim women have to wear hijab when they become baligh, Islamically mature. Isn't it right? Even the non-Muslims know it. Wujub of Hajj, for example. Every Muslim knows that we have to go for Hajj once in a lifetime if we can afford it. Even the non-Muslims know it, that Muslims go for Hajj pilgrimage once in a lifetime. Isn't it right? That's a self-evident wajib of Islam. And wajibun nazari are all the details of salat, are wajibun nazari. All the details of fasting, all the details of khums, all the details of Hajj, all the details of zakat, all the details of fitrah, and so forth. All those details are wajibun nazari. You require in-depth knowledge to install those evidences to prove those details of those wajibat. You require knowledge to prove it. It's not self-evident. It's non-self-evident. That's called nazari. Another significant differences between wajibun daruri and wajibun nazari in Islam is that if a person denies a wajib which is self-evident, knowingly, please pay attention, that this denial equals to denying Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and denying Allah, then this person is an apostate and murtad. I repeat my sentence very carefully. if a person denies a wajibun daruri, a self-evident type of wajib, knowingly that this denial equals to denying Rasulullah who taught us and denying Allah who taught us, knowingly we deny that, this person will become an apostate and murtad. Whereas wajibun nadari is a wajib that if somebody denies it, he will still remain a Muslim. He won't become apostate and murtad. Okay? That's one of the very important differences. So if somebody says, there's nothing as prayers being wajib in Islam, that's all baloney nonsense. Mullahs started it. There's nothing as hijab. That's just part of the Arabian culture. They dumped it on us. We are living in the West. Come on. It's 21st century. That's all nonsense. If somebody denies the wujub of hijab knowingly that this denial equals to denying Rasulullah who taught us and Allah who taught us, and knowingly we deny it, then we will become murtad in the fatwa of every mujtahid on the planet. Let's go to wajibun zati, number 7. Wajibun zati and wajibun i'tibari. Okay. Wajibun zati is a wajib that we, every human being can discover that is wajib through our intellect that Allah gave us without turning to the Sharia. Whereas wajibun i'tibari are those wajibs of Islam which require from you to necessarily turn to the Sharia to discover. Okay? That's the difference between wajibun zati and wajibun i'tibari. Yes, I repeat. Wajibun zati is a wajib that every person can discover it because of the aql and intellect that Allah gave us without turning to the Sharia. Whereas wajibun i'tibari is a wajib that we cannot discover through our aql unless we turn to the Sharia to tell us. That's the difference between wajibun zati and wajibun i'tibari. So examples. There are 2 common examples of wajibun zati in Islam. One is called husnul adl, and the other one is called qubhul zulm. Adl and justice being something appreciated in Islam. Appreciated. This is, you don't have to turn to the Sharia to understand that justice is good. Even if you disbelieve in the Sharia, you just have your intellect. You are a sane person. You can understand that justice is good. And doing zulm and oppression, qubhul zulm means zulm being qabih and condemned and bad. You don't need to turn to Sharia to understand that much. Even by your intellect, you can discover that doing oppression on somebody is bad, is condemned. Isn't that right? So these ahkam are called wajibun zati. And all the rulings of the Sharia are falling in the category of wajibun i'tibari. That means there's an i'tibar. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala considered these rulings bi'ayn al-i'tibar, with his consideration, with the look of considering it to be like this. And because he considered it to be like this, that's why it is like this. So it requires a consideration from Allah. Allah considers, for example, khums to be 20% necessarily taken out from the money. So that's why it is 20% once in a year, because he considered it to be like this. It's not 19%, it's not 21%. That's how he considered it to be. Okay? This is wajibun i'tibari, requires his i'tibar, his consideration. So that's the difference between wajibun zati and i'tibari. Let's move forward. if you allow, we'll take the questions later on. But riba is, riba is obviously haram in Islam, and it's not zati. It's a wajibun i'tibari that we learn from the Sharia. The Sharia teaches us. The water is dripping down. Where's the Brother Azhar administration? Water is coming down from this roof. Bring some bowl, please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. तो है wajib zati, it does not fall in the category of wajib zati. It's a wajib, but it's not wajibun zati. You can say, huh? Okay, you can say that believing in, if the aql of the human beings believe that our justice dictates that
Muhammad wa ali Muhammad Salawat. We can take a break for 10 minutes. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad Salawat. Keep it at 5 minutes. We'll take a break for 5 minutes. 5:15 we can come back inshallah. 5:15. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Before we start for next session, inshallah, tomorrow Majlis announcement for Sohim Majlis for mother of brother Uzair and brother Siraj will be time is slightly changed. It will be start at 4 p.m. right after the Sunday school with the Quran Khani. So it will be start right after Sunday school with the Quran Khani and then Surah Yasin and then So Salam Marsiya. The Majlis will be recited by Maulana Irtaza Hussain Naqvi. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين. So here we have a quiz from the intelligent community of MOMIN Center. If any one of you has attended my presentation earlier in some other city, please do not raise your hand to reply if any brother or sister has attended my presentation earlier. For the rest of the people, so I'll ask this question that mustahab prayers are not supposed to be done in jama'at and congregation, except one prayers which is mustahab that can be done in jama'at. So if you can answer that, then I have some small key rings in my pocket, which are the gifts for you. So if I'll ask the question first from the sisters. If any of the sisters, other than those who may have attended my presentation earlier, is anyone else can raise the hand about Salaat and tell me which mustahab prayers, despite the fact it's mustahab and we don't do mustahab prayers in Jamaat, this mustahab prayers, despite the fact it's mustahab, but it can be done in Jamaat. Salatul Mayyit, which is wajib, not mustahab. Sisters have lost their turn. Okay, we go to brothers. Yes. Namaz Eid, Salatul Eid is wajib in Islam in the time of the Zuhur. The brothers have lost their turn. We go back to the sisters. Salatul Jumu'ah is wajib. Sisters have lost their turn. Yes. Yes, Salatul Istisqa, the prayers for the rain. Say salawat for Shayan. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali. Please come and get your gift. Is a little gift of Seattle Space Needle for you. MashaAllah. Another salawat for Shayan, please. Okay. Yeah, so Salatul Istisqa, the prayers for seeking the rain. When the people do a lot of sins and the wisdom of Allah dictates there should be no rain. So, who are we to ask Allah to send down the rain and go against His absolute wisdom? Who are we, the ignorants, to ask the all-knowledgeable and all-wise to ignore His wisdom and send the rain for us? When His wisdom says, no rain. Who are we? So that's why we need to remember, when you are seeking the prayers for the rain, you are now asking an extra mercy from Allah that we don't deserve to get. When you are asking an extra mercy from Allah, then you need to find out an extra pious person to ask. So the Sharia says The Sharia says, go and find out the most pious person of the community and request him to come forward to lead the prayers. Koi party bazi nahi chalegi. The most pious person in the community, go and find out. Because you are asking an extra favor, an extra mercy that we really don't deserve to get. Why should Allah listen to us? Why? He should go against his own wisdom? Unless if somebody who is really, really pious and so beloved in the eyes of Allah and so close to him, if he makes a request, because Allah loves him so much, Allah is not going to turn him down, his most beloved servant in that community. So go and find out the most pious person of the community and request him to do the Salatul Istisqa. Salatul Istisqa has several unique rulings in Islam. The person who leads the Salatul Istisqa, he wears this abba. This abba is mustahab to wear. That's the dress of Rasulullah. This is called qaba. That's not mustahab to wear. This is not the sunnah of Rasulullah. It later on added into as part of the dresses of the students of the Islamic education and sciences and the scholars. Later on it was added. But this abba is part of the dress of Rasulullah. Okay, he used to wear his sunnat. So the person who recites the Salatul Istisqa there are so many adab. We had our lectures in Seattle on the fiqh classes, and we talked about all various ahkam and adab of Salatul Istisqa. The person will wear this abba upside down, the sign of tawadhu and modesty in front of Allah. Humiliation. We are humiliating ourselves in front of Allah. The scholar who would read the Salatul Istisqa will come out of his house barefooted without wearing the shoes. The sign of tawadhu and modesty. Salatul Istisqa has to be recited outside of the city, not in the populated area. So the person who leads the Salatul Istisqa, he walks all the way instead of riding any animal or a car or a vehicle. He walks all the way to the outskirts of the city where there is no population. There are so many adab and etiquettes. So much that needs to be done. But the most important thing is that you have to find the most pious person of the community and let him ask Allah. And the rest of the people follow him. Because his dua is mustajab and accepted. Allah cares about him because he is so pious. So once there was no rain in Qum, Al-Muqaddasa, and they requested whom? They requested Ayatollah Mishkini, one of my teachers. May Allah bless his soul. I learned from his lessons for, I think, about 9 years. I benefited. I'm proud to have benefited from his lessons for 9 years. 9 years of lessons. So, yeah, so people went to him. He was the Imam al-Jumu'ah of Qum. And also he was the Mudarrisul Akhlaq of the Hawza. In the environment of Hawza, teaching the akhlaq and morals to awamun nas and regular people is very easy. But teaching akhlaq, the lesson of akhlaq in the Hawza, where possibly the mujtahids are sitting in front of you, it's very difficult. You have to be really pious to teach the mujtahids. So he used to teach the dars akhlaq, morals in the Hawza of Qom. Like Mudarris of Akhlaq of Hawza of Najaf was Ayatullah whom? Ayatullah Madani rahmatullahi alayh. After the Islamic Revolution, Imam Khomeini made him the Imam al-Jumu'ah of Tabriz. And the Munafiqeen, la'natullah alayhim, they killed him. He's one of the Shuhada of Mihrab. He was also a very pious person. So Ayatollah Mishkini was the teacher of akhlaq. It's such a big thing. And also the head of Majlis Ahl al-Khibra, Majlis Khubregan, how they say in Farsi, the council of the expert mujtahids who announced the Wali al-Faqih, the leader. He was the head of that council. All mujtahid council. He was the head of that council as well. He was a great person. And he was mustajab da'wah. His dua was mustajab. How many people we have like that on the face of earth? When they raise their hand, Allah listens. How great they are. So Ayatollah Mishkini accepted. If a sinner likes me, God knows what would happen if a sinner like me raises the hand for rain. I don't even deserve, isn't it right? But a person like him, he accepted and he went out and he led the Salaat al-Istisqa, the prayers for seeking the rain. And when he raised his hand in the qunut of the prayers and he started his dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it started to rain during his qunut. So we are talking about that kind of person. Ayatollah Mishkini, rahmatullah alayh. He never published his book of fatwa because he used to think it's, disrespectful for a mujtahid like Imam Khomeini that in his presence I publish my book of fatwa. It's disrespectful for him and his greatness. Okay, so this is Salatul Istisqa. Let's go to the next question. Wajib prayers can be done in Jamaat, but there's one wajib prayers which, despite the fact it's wajib, but it can still not be done in Jamaat. So, sisters first. When Prophet used to bring a gift, he always used to start with the girls first. So I'll ask the sisters first. Yes. Eldest son is wajib to do the qada of the father, correct, but that salat can be done in Jamaat as well. Sisters have lost their turn. Okay, yes. Salatul Tawaf, say salawat for the brother. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. We have this small gift. Please come forward. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. MashaAllah. Say another salawat for him, please. MashaAllah. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. जी दे दीजिएगा. So Salatul Tawaf. I explained to you a while ago the 2 rakat prayers that we do at the Maqam of Ibrahim after the Tawaf. If your Tawaf is wajib, then the 2 rakat prayers, which is called Salatul Tawaf, is also wajib. That salat, despite the fact it's wajib, but it cannot be done in Jamaat. You have to do it furada necessarily, okay? Now let's move forward to Shara'it of the Shara'it Sihhat Salat. That means the conditions for the correctness and validity of the prayers. If you fulfill these 14 conditions, then your prayers is considered to be correctly done. What are those 14 conditions that we need to meet to make sure our prayers is correctly done? Number 1 is tahara. Tahara. Okay, let me move to the whiteboard. Okay, taharat. means Islamic cleanliness. Okay, it's divided into two types. Taharatun ma'iyyah and taharatun turabiyyah. Means the water-based taharat and the soil-based taharat. Okay? There are two types of taharat we have in Islam. And so the water-based taharat is again divided into two types, which is, wudu and ghusl. And the soil-based is only one type, which is called tayammum. Okay? So this is how it is. So whatever is applicable in your case, if you have to do wudu, in your case, you would do wudu. If ghusl is wajib on you, you have to do ghusl when the time of prayers enters. Ghusl is not wajib, I already said. Wudu is not wajib in Islam. It becomes wajib, is wajibun tab'i, not wajibun asli. Not wajibun asli, it's wajibun tab'i. It's a dependent wajib. Wudu and ghusl become wajib for the sake of some other wajib, which is salat. In itself, it's not wajib. It's mustahab to do wudu. It's mustahab to do wudu all the time. So if wudu applies in your case, you do it. If ghusl applies, you would do it. If water is not available or it's harmful, you would do tayammum. So that's the soil-based tahara. Every religious family must have the soil of tayammum next to our beds, in our bedrooms. Why? Because we are humans. We are not masoom. We can always wake up late. And the time is too short. If you go for wudu, if the time is too short and you miss your fajr prayers, obviously it's a sin. Tayammum takes like 4 seconds. Isn't it right? If it's just, like suppose, 1.5 minutes remaining for fajr to become qada, and you take, for example, 1 minute to do wudu, for example, then you cannot do your 1 rakat of fajr in 30 seconds. At least you are required to do 1 rakat of the prayer within the time to save your prayers. So 1 rakat you can't do in 30 seconds. So if you go for wudu and 1 rakat of prayers, you can't do it. So every religious family must have the soil of tayammum, or one of the things upon which tayammum is okay, next to their beds in their houses, because we can always wake up late. We are humans. At least you can do tayammum so you don't miss your fajr. Isn't it right? So this is about the taharat. So taharat, we do it. It's one of the conditions. I'll take the questions if you allow me later. Yeah, that's a different discussion, but yeah, I'll do it very quickly because you asked. So you have one of those things upon which tayammum is okay. You have to remove any wetness, sweat, any wetness that is there on your hands. So if you have any obstacles on your hands, like ballpoint ink is an obstacle. Sisters, girls, if you have nail polish, this is a daytime fun thing, okay? It's not for the night. When you go to bed, remove your nail polishes. Because again, we are humans, we can always wake up late. What if you wake up late and you don't have time to use the nail polish removers for those 10 minutes or 5 minutes and you lose your fajr? Okay? And you can't even do tayammum with the nail polish on your hands. Isn't it right? So if you have nail polishes, remove it before you go to sleep. So remove all the obstacles, remove all the rings that you are wearing, and if there is a wetness, dry up your hands, and all the parts of tayammum need to be dry. That is the face, the forehead, and the palms and the hands need to be dry. And do the niyat of tayammum. I'm doing this tayammum instead of the wudu or instead of the ghusl, whatever is applicable in your case, qurbatan ilallah. And then you have to join your palms together and strike them on one of those things upon which tayammum is correct. The most famous is the soil. So you have to strike your palms together, not like this. That's batil. You have to strike it together. Okay? You can do like this if you want. That's allowed. And then you have to put your palms from the root of the hair downwards on the forehead. This part is still not covered. With in Arabic, we call it jabinan. Jabinan are not covered. This is called jabha, and this is jabinan. That's not covered. So you slide your hand like this, then you move it like this to cover these two parts. Okay, like this, and then you rub your left hand over the right and your right hand over the left. It takes 4 seconds. Okay, that's how we do the tayammum. So taharat is a shart and condition for the validity and correctness of our prayers. Whatever applies in your case, wudu or ghusl or tayammum, you need to do that when the time of prayers enter. Some of the mujtahids, not all, say that if you have done the wudu ahead of the time of the prayers, with the niyat of istihbab, being mustahab and recommended, you cannot pray a wajib prayers with that wudu. Some of the mujtahids say that, not all. Okay? So the best policy, brothers and sisters, is that whenever you do the wudu, just do it with the niyat of qurbatan ilallah. No need to specify wajib or mustahab in your niyat. Then your wudu will suffice for a wajib act in the future or a mustahab act that you may want to do. Is that clear? So this is about the taharat. Okay, number 2 is istiqbalul qibla, facing the qibla. Istiqbal means facing the qibla. Okay, it's another very important discussion. Please pay attention. Qibla. Qibla of Muslims is nothing but the Holy Kaaba. Holy Kaaba is our Qibla. But who can see the Holy Kaaba? Only those people who are inside the Grand Mosque, which is called Al-Masjid Al-Haram, the sacred mosque. Only those people who are standing inside the masjid can see the Kaaba. If you step outside of the walls of the masjid, you can't see the Kaaba. Isn't it right? So how would you pray? Qibla is the Kaaba, but you cannot see the Kaaba outside the walls. Especially with all those nonsense long buildings that they have constructed, which is considered as insult of the Holy Kaaba. And that's against the hadith. The hadith when Mubarak says, لا يرفع بناء فوق الكعبة. That's the hadith. لا يرفع بناء فوق الكعبة. That's the hadith. No construction can be made above the Kaaba. Well, who cares about what the hadith says? They have violated bigger harams and rules of Allah, than that. So for them, it doesn't make any difference. So coming back to our point, if you step out of the walls of the masjid, you simply cannot see the Kaaba. So how would you pray towards the Kaaba? That's why our scholars, our mujtahideen, our fuqaha say the qibla for those who are inside the city of Makkah is actually al-Masjid al-Haram. The qibla is actually the Kaaba, but because we cannot see, it will become taklifu ma la yutaq. And taklifu ma la yutaq laysa fil Islam. Something which is beyond our reach to do. Anything which is beyond our reach is not our obligation in Islam. It will be impossible for the people in the city of Makkah to pray in a direction where if they draw straight line, they have certainty that this line is going to cross through the Kaaba. You cannot make sure. There's no way for you to make sure, isn't that right? So that's why it's beyond our reach to make sure. When it's beyond our reach, it's not our obligation in Islam. So that's why our fuqaha say, true that the Qibla actually is Kaaba, but that's beyond our reach to make sure if you step outside the wall, if you're living anywhere else in the city of Makkah. For those who are in the city of Makkah, outside the masjid, their Qibla, their direction to turn to is actually the masjid. Just turn towards the direction of masjid and that's enough. Even if the straight line of if you draw a straight line in front of you does not cross through the Kaaba, still it's okay as long as you're facing the direction of the masjid. Okay? So Qibla for those in the city of Makkah is Al-Masjid al-Haram. So what if you cannot even see the masjid? You are so far away like us. We are living so far that there's no way we can see the masjid. So our Qibla means the direction to turn to. The direction that we are supposed to turn to is what the fuqaha say is Jihatul Kaaba. Our Qibla is the direction of Kaaba. That's our Qibla. We need to turn towards the direction of Kaaba. That's it. No need to necessarily make sure that this line again is crossing through the Kaaba. We cannot make sure. That's impossible. When it's impossible, it's not our obligation to make sure in Islam. So our Qibla, because we are far away, we can't even see the masjid, is Jihatul Kaaba, direction of Kaaba. Okay? So that's why, so in North America, our Qibla is northeast. That's the shortest distance towards the Kaaba. So okay, so let's suppose here is this is South America, something like this, right? And that's North America, that's Gulf of Mexico, that's Florida, okay? And this is Alaska. And here is Canada and the Ellesmere Island and Baffin Island, and that's Greenland, and here's Iceland. And there you find the British Isles insulting the Holy Prophet and harboring Salman Rushdie. And here's Denmark insulting the Holy Prophet. And here's Holland making the film against Islam, and France putting a ban on the hijab and still claiming to be one of the most civilized. Here is Italy that kicks Sicily, and they reprinted the T-shirts to insult Islam. Okay, and here is like Norway and Sweden, isn't it right? And Finland and all that. And here is Russia, and there you find is Africa. It's like this, okay? So here is somewhere you find, actually I lost the track, is here somewhere is, I made it too big, sorry about that, but this is somewhere the Holy Kaaba, okay? So this is the kind of a map which is flat in surface. In geography, they use this kind of map is called the Mercator projection. Mercator projection is one of the worst projections to understand the sizes of the continents and the countries and their directions. So never turn to Mercator projection to understand the direction of Kaaba, because that would be deceiving for you. Okay? For example, here is Brazil. Okay? This is Brazil, and Brazil is bigger than the continental US. Continental US is smaller than Brazil. Now, in the Mercator projection, you find they show Greenland to be so big. You know, in the map, you will also see in the Mercator projection, they make Greenland to be so big. Although in the real world, the ratio between Brazil and Greenland is the ratio of 7:2. So if Greenland is 2, Brazil is 7. That means Brazil is more than 3 times bigger than Greenland. But in Mercator projection, they show Brazil to be smaller and Greenland to be bigger. You can understand how much deceiving would be this projection for anyone who wants to understand the direction of Qibla. So that's not the right way. The best way, if you're looking at a map, is what they call the Lambert azimuthal equal area projection. That's the best projection in the maps to look for and to understand. Well, the best thing is still to have a globe in front of you. That's the easiest thing, because if you put the globe in front of you, you can see that the shortest distance from North American continent towards the Mecca, city of Mecca, is northeast and not the southeast. Southeast is longer. So that's why for the entire continent, the Qibla of the entire continent is northeast. That's the shortest distance. Now the degrees may vary. For example, I live here in Seattle. It is 17.5, approximately 5.2 degrees. For Dallas, it must be different, 35, 37, whatever, 43. So the degrees may vary depending on what latitude and longitude you are, but it's northeast, okay? So the best thing is that you carry a compass. The best compass in the world is Suunto of Finland. You can go to their website, suuntousa.com. #1 compass in the world. Am I right? When you travel outside, you carry, even if you, suppose you're traveling from Dallas to Toronto, you carry the food with you, isn't it right? So when we care about our food, we take it we ask our wives to make some food for us, isn't it right? So we can also carry a compass as a matter of importance. Okay? I have this Suunto compass with me. It's working very well since so many years. Okay? So you can always get a $20 compass, maybe a little bit more now. But basically, that's a compass you can carry to find out the northeast direction. Obviously, like I said, there's a little bit variation depending on where you are. But the Qibla of North America is northeast. If you go to Europe, it's southeast. Okay? So bottom line is that you have to face towards the city of Mecca, which is our Jihatul Qibla, the direction of Jihatul Kaaba, the direction of Kaaba that we are supposed to face, because we cannot see Al-Masjid al-Haram, the sacred mosque. Is that clear? Okay, so that's the concept of Qibla, but you have to do istiqbal, you have to face the Qibla. If you did your prayers and you found out after you did the prayers that you were not facing the Qibla, and you are off more than, some mujtahideen say 45 degrees, then your salat is batil. You have to redo your prayers. If you faced a direction which is off more than 45 degrees, you have to redo your prayers. For those of the people, who don't know the Qibla direction, they can either ask two adil witnesses. Their witness is considered to be bayyinatun shar'iyya, Islamically acceptable evidence. Or if two adil are not present, you can even rely on one trustworthy person who doesn't lie. Or you can find out the masjid. You can obviously see the direction in the mihrab of the masjid. If you can't find the masjid, if you can find the graveyard of Muslims, you can discover the graves are always towards the Qibla, like I talked about. If none of those work for you, carry a compass. Okay? You have to have some arrangement to find out what's the direction of Qibla, because you have to pray. You have to give importance. Carry a compass with you. I travel every single week, other than the month of Ramadan. Every single week I am traveling. I do my prayers inside the planes. I do the prayers in the airports. That's what you have to do, isn't it right? You get some scary staring of some people looking at you, but that's okay. Who cares? Okay? Who cares? We'll practice our own faith. They need to learn to respect us, like we respect them. We respect our Jewish neighbors in Islam. We respect our Hindu neighbors. We respect our Christian neighbors. Our religion teaches us to respect our neighbors. And we expect them to do the same to us. So the bottom line is that we need to face the Qibla. Don't be off more than 45 degrees. If you are stuck in a situation where you have none of those ways to find out, for example, a person is in the jail. You don't have a compass, you don't have two adil witnesses, you don't have any one trustworthy MOMIN person who doesn't lie, you don't have any graveyard to look at, or masjid, or whatever, nothing, no compass, nothing. The worst case scenario solution in our fiqh is obviously you have to pray in 4 directions. Okay, so you have to first pray your Dhuhr prayers in 4 directions, and then you have to pray your Asr prayers in 4 directions. Okay, so if you pray your Dhuhr prayers, for example, so if let's suppose you prayed your Dhuhr like this, then you prayed like this, then you prayed like this, then you prayed like this. The worst case scenario, you later on find out actually the Qibla was here. So it's less than 45 degrees deviation. That's okay, isn't it right? So when you pray in 4 directions, you are less than 45 degrees off. That's the worst case scenario. In the plane, you can find out through the compass, or you can ask the pilot, and they can tell you. So this is about istiqbal al-Qibla. Let's go to the third condition for the correctness of our prayers is satrul awratain, covering the private parts for the men. They need to cover the private parts, this wajib. And obviously, that's the bare minimum. It's always better to wear the best of the clothes and the modest clothes, and not to wear shorts, or even t-shirts is okay, but it's not the best thing to do. Imam al-Mushtaba alayhi salam used to wear the best of his clothes at the time of Salaat. Inna Allaha jamilun yuhibbul jamal. Imam al-Hasan said, Ana atajammalu li Rabbi. Uridu an albisa ajwad as-siyab. I beautify myself for my Lord. I want to wear the best of my clothes. So that's the sunnat of Rasul and Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. They used to wear the best of the dresses at the time of Salat. And the hadith tells us if somebody wears not the best dress of his at the time of Salaat, so he did not wear the clothes for the sake of Allah. So if you are wearing your clothes for the sake of Allah, then you would care about wearing the best of the clothes for Allah. Let's suppose you have an appointment with the mayor of Dallas. What kind of dress, junky punky dresses would you wear? Or some of the best dresses that you have? You would be very careful what to do, what to talk, what to say, isn't it right? Probably you're going to prepare your speech as well. What's the status of any human in front of Allah? What if you're meeting with the governor of Texas, let's suppose? Is any human being comparable to Allah, the Creator? You're coming in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Isn't it right? If you understand, if you realize that, you don't have to think twice for that. It's very obvious that we have to be in the best form. Our scholars say maybe, Allah knows the real wisdom, maybe one of the wisdoms why the sisters are required to wear the hijab during the prayers is because Allah wants the woman to be in their best form. The best form for a woman in the eyes of Allah is when she's wearing hijab. Number 4, satrul badan, covering the entire body, except the wajh and kaffain. Wajh means the face, kaffain means the hands below the 2 wrists. That can be exposed. It's wajib for the woman to wear socks in front of non-mahram people. It's okay for a woman not to wear socks if they are praying alone in a place where there is no non-mahram. And this is what some of the women confuse it, and they end up believing that it's not wajib to cover the feet. No, it is wajib to cover the feet in front of non-mahram people. It's allowed not to cover your feet if you are praying alone where there is no non-mahram present. But if you are if there is a non-mahram present, or if you are praying in a public place like a masjid where any non-mahram can possibly walk in any time, it's wajib to cover your feet as well. Because in front of non-mahram, it is wajib to cover your feet. So what can be left open is the wajh, means the face. Face here means what falls between the middle finger and the thumb in the width. This much, which is wajib to wash in wudu. And in the length from the roots of the hair till the tip of the chin. So sisters need to cover this area as well. That's not wajib to wash in wudu. Okay? So this much face can be left open, which falls between the middle finger and the thumb. In front of non-mahram people, in the Salaat, in both cases, only this much face can be left open and the hands below the 2 wrists. If there are non-mahram people present, they need to wear the socks. Even during the Salaat, they have to wear the socks if there are non-mahram people present. That much is allowed for a man to look at a woman without lust, obviously without lust. That much, that means the face, which is wajib to wash in wudu, and the hands below the 2 wrists. A man is not allowed to look at the woman more than these 3. And likewise, a woman is not allowed to look at a man at anything of him more than these 3. The face, which is wajib to wash in wudu, and the hands below the 2 wrists. Both genders are allowed to look at each other only at these 3 things without the lust. Not more than that. Number 5, taharatul badan, cleanliness, Islamic cleanliness of the body. So, body needs to be tahir. If your body is najis, you cannot start your prayers. When the time of prayers enters, you need to go and make your body tahir, Islamically clean. Okay, we have Islamic process of cleaning ourselves, not just putting water. Putting water is not taharat. Learn the Islamic process of cleaning yourself in the washroom, okay? So we need to teach our children what are the differences between, what are the types of water. Ma'ul jari, the running water. Ma'ul bir, the well water. The water of the rain water. And likewise, the running water and the kur water and the less than kur water, which is called qaleel. and the more than kur water, which is called kathir. All those types of water we need to teach our children so they know how to clean themselves Islamically in the washroom and other than the washroom. So if my child doesn't know what's the difference between kur water, what's the definition of kur water, how can he benefit from that ruling? So body has to be Islamically clean. I intentionally keep on using the word Islamic cleanliness because we have our own Islamic procedure of cleaning ourselves, not just putting water. That's not called cleanliness in Islam. Islamic procedure of cleaning. Likewise, taharatul libas means Islamic cleanliness of the dress. You make your dress tahir if it becomes najis, in the Islamic procedure of making it tahir. Dress being mubah, number 7. Your dress has to be mubah, means permitted by the owner to use the dress. So if you're using somebody else's dress and the owner is not agreeing with you to use his dress, your salat is batil. Apart from the salat, even touching the dress is not allowed. Forget about wearing it. It doesn't belong to you. You cannot even touch it. We have high moral standards in Islam. It's so shocking for me to find those people taking caravans to the Zionist state for the ziyarat of Masjid al-Aqsa. What kind of people we have? Every step of your way are doing gunah-e-kabira, bigger sin. You're walking in the houses of those innocent civilians, those houses that were broken and constructed, and roads and so many other things are made for destroying the houses. Do you have permission from the owner? What if somebody trespasses into your house in Dallas? How would you feel? Ask any other person of any faith. If somebody enters into your house, according to the laws of United States of America, if somebody trespasses into your house, is that allowed? Are we talking outrageous? All your wudu are batil, all your prayers are batil, every step you are doing gunah-e-kabira, bigger sin by stepping into the land of where you don't have the permission from the owner. But there are people who are doing it, isn't it right? It's shocking. In Islam, our Shariat of Imam Sadiq alayhi salam teaches us if you are standing in a place and you are doing the wudu, not only the water which you are using for wudu, all the circumference where the droplets of your wudu water are falling down on the ground, the entire circumference has to be mubah, permitted by the owner for you to stand and use it because you are dropping water on his land. Not only the water which you are using should be mubah and permitted by the owner, but even the land where you are standing to do the wudu has to be mubah, permitted by the owner. Otherwise, you're doing a bigger sin to stand there. This is the ABC of our fiqh. It's the ABC of any law of any country. Trespassing is not allowed. Okay, let's move forward to the number 8. Dress should not be made of a dead animal. Okay. If you happen to have a snakeskin belt, okay, a wallet inside your pocket of an animal which is not slaughtered according to the 6 conditions of Islamic Sharia to make something zabiha, an Islamic slaughtering. We call it tazkiyatul haywan in Arabic. So you need to make sure 6 conditions are met. If you have a wallet, a belt, if you're wearing a jeans that has a tag, a leather tag on it, you're wearing a jacket which has a zipper pull made of leather, take it off. Okay? Now we are standing in front of Allah. Our dress should not have any part of a dead animal. The snake skin is not najis. If you touch the snake with a wet hand, your hand is still tahir and not najis because snake skin is not najis. Snake is not a najis animal. But snake is a haram meat animal. It is haram to consume. And we are not supposed to have, number 9, dress made from a haram meat animal. So if you have snake skin belt, take it off. It's a haram meat animal. It's not najis. The belt is not najis, but it's a haram meat animal. Cat hair. If you have a cat as pet, first of all, it's never a good idea to bring haram meat animals inside your house. If you bring it, put those animals in a cage, because haram meat animals have their feathers or their hair or even the droppings. They are all najis. We'll take the questions later on, please. So it's all najis. And according to 98% of our mujtahids, approximately, if you have even one hair of a cat, according to 97%, not 100%, 97% of our mujtahids, if you have one hair of a cat on your dress, and even you find out after you are done with the prayers, your salat is batil, you have to repeat it. 3% of the mujtahideen allow it, but 97% do not allow. So be careful. If you have a cat, either put the haram meat animal. Cat is not najis. Again, it's not najis, but it's a haram meat animal. There's two different things. An animal being najis or tahir, and an animal being halal meat to consume or haram meat not to consume. So cat is not najis. If you touch it with a wet hand, your hand doesn't become najis. But it's a haram meat animal. And nothing of the haram meat animal should be on your body or dress at the time of the salat, according to the fatwa of 97%. 3% allow it, approximately. Dead animal includes even a sheep, which is a halal meat animal. Sheep is not a haram meat animal. But if it dies the natural death, it is falling in the category of al-mayta, murdar, dead body. If a sheep dies a natural death, it is now najis. Okay? Dead animal, even though it may be a halal meat animal, is najis. So dead animal's parts should not be in our body or on our dress. Number 10, men. So sometimes I go into the houses of people having cats, I take my socks off. It has so many hairs. Isn't it right? Sometimes you can't even see the hairs and get stuck to your dress, your socks, and you never know. Isn't it right? You can find out after you are done with the prayers, and then I have to repeat my prayers. I don't want to do that. Well, that's some people even have those mamsukhat in their houses. That's even very, inappropriate. Those 25 animals which used to be humans or nations cursed by Allah and converted into certain animals. We call them mamsukhat, maskh shuda. And some people have one of those animals, stuffed as a decoration piece in their living room. There's a sign of la'nat and curse of God that you are putting in your living room. So, yeah, we taught in Seattle, in our community, we talked about all those 25 animals to the community. Now, okay, let's move forward to number 10, is men avoiding gold and pure silk dress. That's being haram for the men, Have you seen those people who are buying the gold bands for their future son-in-law? Let's suppose you travel all the way from Dallas to Houston. Your friend told you there's a very nice deal. You can buy the gold band for your son-in-law from Houston, some mall in Houston. Now you travel all the way from Dallas to Houston. Now you have to pray your salat full during this travel, because your safar is safarul ma'siyah, is gunah ka safar, is a traveling of a sin, because your intention is to buy a gold ring for your son-in-law to wear. That's haram for a man to wear gold. You have to pray full prayers in Houston. Don't facilitate other people to do haram, and their harams are written in your bag. So the men are not allowed to wear gold or pure silk ties, pure silk dresses, Isn't it right? That's not allowed for the men to do that. It's haram anyways, but in the prayers, if you do that, a part of being haram, the salat is also batil, okay? If you wear the silk tie and you pray, your salat is already batil, or the gold ring. 11th of all is not wearing the gold jewelry. I mentioned that, but place of salat being mubah. I also mentioned that should not be usurped. You have permission from the owner. Usually when I travel or driving somewhere, want to pray, okay, I go to a gas station, I buy something from the store. Even if you buy some chips or something which is halal, you buy from the store. So now you are a customer. Now you can stand in the parking lot and nobody would have objection on you because you are their customer. And you can pray. Okay? So you need to have permission from the owner before you pray at some place. Point of sajda from Sa'id, the place where you're doing the sajda. Sa'id in Arabic means the face of earth. So the place where you do the sajda should be Sa'id with Sad, face of earth. We do the sajda on the face of earth, things that belong to the face of earth. Soil, stone, plantations which are not used for dressing up or eating. So you won't do the sajda on pan ke patte pe sajda nahi kiya jayega, okay? Or anything, any plantation which is used for eating or dressing up, we don't do sajda on that. Anything else that belong to the surface of earth which falls in the category of Sa'id with the Sad, we do sajda on that. The most superior is the turbat of Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam, because we have the hadith. We have the hadith from Imam Al-Sadiq alayhi salam, where he says, and I request all of you to write it down. This hadith should always be written down. The paper upon which you write down the hadith will serve as a blockade, blocking the flames of fire on the day of judgment to reach your body. Imam Al-Sadiq alayhi salam says, as-sujudu ala turbat al-Hussein السجود على تربة الحسين يخرق الحجب السبع. That means doing the sajda on the turbat of Hussein alayhi salam rips apart the 7 curtains. Don't we have 7 curtains between us and Allah? All the 7 curtains are ripped apart when you do the sajda on the turbat of Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam. This actually turbat belongs to Jannat and paradise. It's not an ordinary turbat. In the fatwa of Imam Khomeini radwanullahi alayh, it's not allowed to put the turbat of Imam Hussein alayhi salam in the lower pocket next to your private parts. If it is considered to be insult, it's haram. You need to put the turbat in the upper pocket. That's not an ordinary turbat. We need to respect it. If it falls down in the toilet, you have to take out the turbat of Imam Hussein and make it tahir. It's not an ordinary turbat. So that's the most superior soil. And 14th of all, the place should be stable, not shaking. The place where you are standing and praying should not be shaking. So if it's an unstable, moving place, you cannot pray on that. Unless if a person is on a ship. We have Rakibus Safina, we have in our fiqh, ahkam narrated for those who are riding a boat. The boat is always shaking, it's on the waves. You can do nothing about it, isn't it right? Or nowadays you fly the planes. Sometimes the planes have turbulence. You can wait for a time and they go more than 37,000 feet where usually there's no turbulence, but sometimes it's unexpected, isn't it right? It can happen. So you have to wait for a while if you can do so. If you cannot and you cannot control it and your prayers will be gone, then obviously there is no choice except to do it. But try to minimize it. If you are on a boat or on a plane or on a train, if you can wait for a while so you can reach a solid land to pray, fine, wait. If you can't wait, your prayers will become qada and you cannot minimize it, and it's okay to pray on that area. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina wa nabiyyina Muhammadin wa alihi at-tahirin. Huh? इस ब्रेक के बाद ठीक है अभी क्या टाइम हुआ है 6:15 ना 6:15 ना ख़त्म करेंगे तो उसके बाद नमाज होगी फ़ौरन उसके बाद 7:30 तो मैं उस वक्त नमाज करने चला जाऊँगा 7:15 से 8:30 15 मिनट होंगे अभी दे दूँगा so we have 5 minutes break inshallah Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Brothers and sisters, we have 5 minutes break. Inshallah, we get together on 6:20. But today we're going to do the namaz on time, inshallah. So it's 7:30. 7:30 we're going to do the namaz. So next session will be go till 7:20. Then we take a break for 10 minutes for wazoo and things. And then 7:30 we do the namaz maghriban. Then after that we continue. Bar Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Brothers, please take the card from the brother Masum Ali and write your questions on it and give it to the Maulana so he can answer in the QE. Okay. Maulana recited one dua.